Once again, rock you like hurricane. Here I am. Tried again for a third time. Third time. So yeah, here I am again, trying to do some streaming. Let's see. Maybe I'll go share the link around. Says people's watching me. I always feel like somebody's watching me. And it's Dave. No, Skinny, eat a turd. You don't get no link. I just started streaming, turd. You gotta hang on a minute. Trying to use a fancy old StreamYards on this dilapidated turd box or Streamlabs and just had to switch. Stupid thing. I don't know if I'll be able to hear you tonight. I ain't got nothing to listen on. Let's see. Yeah, I've only been streaming for a couple of minutes. Gonna drop some links on so people come watch us. Let's just talk about stupid stuff. Maybe that's the right link. Yeah, there we go. Stupid thing. I said I may not be able to hear you. Can't get stupid anything on this stupid thing to work. Makes me mad. I could use my phone, but my phone's got no internet. Oh, so today it's been it's pretty much been 5 years since we did Lone Wolf. It's 4 years that we printed it, but it funded a little while before that. So like, let's see, it's almost March. Let's see, about 6 or 7 months, it'll be 5 years. Ain't that crazy?
Hey.
Hey, I could actually hear you really good. Kind of surprised me.
Good. My camera was working a second ago. I don't know why it's not now.
Because it's connected to my Chromebook and it's a turd.
There it goes.
It sent the turdness into your computer.
I got some cool stuff in today, man.
Wieners.
Wieners, lots of wieners. I love wieners. But no, I got the coof. I don't know if you saw that.
I seen that you was sick. I've not been on the line much today.
Yeah, I just took the test a couple hours ago, and it was like immediately. It was like, yeah, you got the coof.
It's like you coughed and it goes,
It's like, well, the test says to wait 15 minutes. By the time 5 minutes had passed, it was already like bright red 2 lines. It's like, you're pregnant, bro. I'm like, how? I'm a man. And it's like, it's 2023, man. Like, these things are changing.
Yeah.
But some cool stuff did happen besides me feeling like poop, but I got this in the mail today.
Awesome.
It's just a sample, but this is the metal lunchbox that I'm going to be putting my art on.
It looks awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's got like a little clasp and everything, but...
Yeah, you make me want to do those now.
And then you got the cereal bowl fits inside.
I seen the cereal bowl, dude. Those look killer.
These are, you can tell I've been using it too. Like, it's all dry now, but I've been using this thing like crazy, man. And then I can fit a t-shirt in here.
Your camera went off again.
Yeah, I think I bumped the cable.
Oh. It's like right when you pull a t-shirt out, it goes away. Well, now it says you're not connected at all, Skinny. So you will need to connect your microphone and camera before I can add you to the stream. Right when you was getting ready to show us all that good stuff, you disappeared. Monster drink. 0 sugar Monster drink. Woo. Let's see, what time is it? 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Just 4 more. Dude, my Chromebook has been doing nothing but issues like all evening. But there's the link if you want to jump in, Hiroshi Paradox. Oh, you just sit down to dinner. Well, just eat on stream. Turn your camera on and just zoom in on your mouth as you're eating. That would be so awesome. Well, Skinny's completely gone now. Bye, Skinny. Bye, Skinny. I'm here at that place that I go to sometimes to do things. Frozen pizza. There's Skinny.
Here we go. That's really gay. But no, I was just saying that this isn't a special T-shirt. This is just my wife's Avenged Sevenfold T-shirt because she likes good music. But yeah, and then there's the bowl. But yeah, it all fits in this lunchbox, man. I got some room to put some other stuff in there. Yeah, I'll let you know when I'm getting them if you want to do something like that.
If you did a mini book, like a mini comic, would it fit in there?
Yeah. It's not big enough for like a traditional comic.
Yeah, I didn't think it was.
Like, pretty much.
Yeah, but you could do a mini comic and fit it.
You could. I should have one sitting up here. Yeah, so like, these are the ash cans that you get from Mix'em. This is actually the Banjo Man. And yeah, that fits in here like a glove, pretty much. I mean,
dude, that is so cool.
I can just show you on the lid there. You get a little wiggle room on the side, but lengthwise, it's almost perfect.
That is really cool.
So these will fit, just not a regular comic book.
See, that makes me want to do a lunchbox with a mini comic and a CD and just stickers.
I mean, you can do that stuff. I'm not going to like accuse you of stealing ideas. I mean, I stole the lunchbox thing from somebody else. I saw somebody else offered them on their campaign. I'm like, let me look into this because
it's really cool, man. Because I mean, you can use it as a lunchbox, or you could just use it for whatever.
Well, originally I was like thinking about what you had talked about like a couple years ago. If you remember, you were talking about like stuffing ammo boxes full of stuff.
Yeah.
And that turned out to not be a very good idea, sadly, Doug.
Ammo box is way too much.
Yeah, they weigh too much, and they're not as easy to come by anymore with everybody. With all the stuff going on right now, like that, the military surplus market has like, whew, that thing went from like everything, and you got like the cheaper than dirt magazine where like even the store name is like, hey, this crap is all cheap, and now it's just
now it's more expensive than poop.
Those were the anti-spike boots that they had for like back in NAMM. Those are getting crazy expensive too, and those used to be the cheapest army boots you could buy. And the only difference was that they had that little thing of like sheet metal or whatever along the bottom of it.
Eric Hawkins wants to know if he gets a sandwich with the lunchbox.
No, maybe.
Dave says if I do a Cyclotron one, make it look like an ammo box. I could do that. But make it Army green. There's Firefox Pro. What's up? Links in the chat if any of you guys want to jump in.
Those lunch boxes aren't terribly expensive. Like getting a sample was a little pricey because I'm just buying one and having them ship me one. But honestly, as far as their bulk prices go, it wasn't that bad, man.
I still want to make a vinyl record. That's what I'm aspiring towards.
I want to do that too. I pretty much just want to make all the stuff that I've always liked having as a kid because I always
Yeah.
liked listening to records as a kid. Always liked lunchboxes as a kid. Always liked cereal.
Every band I've ever been in, we've aspired to do that, but like records kind of went out at that point, so it was ridiculously expensive to get one made. It's still a little expensive now, but it's not out of reach. You know what I
I
mean?
wonder I wonder how expensive it is to like make your own though.
What record?
Yeah.
You can lathe cut them, but they don't hold up as long as the ones that are pressed.
I would like to do those ones that they used to do like on the cereal boxes and stuff.
Flexi disc.
Yeah. Where it was just that plastic that they had just glued on top of the
Yeah.
cardboard. Because they've even had some of the cool records that I saw too was one band, and I forget which band it was, but I really liked them. Maybe it was like Muse or somebody like that. But they had released one of their albums as an ice record. And what it was is they sent you this rubber mold, basically, and you had to use distilled water to freeze into that mold, and then you would have a record made out of ice that would play all the songs and everything
That's
flawlessly.
ridiculous.
It was really neat, though. Like I was like, "That's cool, man!" Like imagine that thing melting into your record player, though. Like
I would. Could you not just take like wax and pour it in there? And
you
that's kind of
probably could, but I think
that's
wax would be too brittle for your stylus or the little
that's
needle, whatever they call that thing.
that's how they. That's kind of how they make records, though, because it's pressed. It's in the instead of you can cut stuff into it, but for the best quality, it's. And I don't understand how they get the sound waves in the molds to press it. Isn't that weird?
That is really weird. Well, with it being vinyl, wouldn't it be like a liquid when they pour it into their molds?
Probably, I would think so.
I'm not really sure about the process of how to make records.
Well,
I bet Fly Fox knows. He's got the hat of an expert.
Wait, what?
talking
You
about
look
your
like
hat.
an expert on how to make records.
I gotta wear my hat. Look, my hat's redneck. It doesn't matter how I wear it. It's redneck. Trying to straighten the bill out.
I don't have a hat by me.
Well, apparently dinner is ready now that I've gotten out here. So
Oh, yeah.
Oh well, you can come back. We'll be here probably for an hour or 3.
all right, I'll be back.
All right, man. Have a good dinner.
Have a good one, sir.
Have a dinner.
Go into deep hiding for a minute here. But yeah, I found out I got the coof today because I've been feeling terrible anyway. So I decided to stop fulfilling books. Because as I told Septinov on Twitter, I was like, I don't think we passed that stretch goal where everybody gets a free case of the flu. I mean, I don't know if there is a risk, like if I'm sick and I'm packing people's books, if maybe that can get to them too. But I know that I feel bad enough to where I don't want to even do it anyways. So
Yeah.
I'm going to just.
As
take
long
a
as you
break.
sent mine, I don't care.
Yeah, yours is sitting right here on the table. I got it's labeled and everything. I just have to drop it off. I was meaning to do that
Just throw it in the
yesterday,
mailbox. Tell them to bring it to me.
I'm just going to throw it in the ocean and hope for the best.
25 years from
You're
now,
like,
somebody will find it on.
I don't
on
even
the
live in
magazine.
that direction, Skinny. You got to throw it east. I'm like, well, I figure it'll work its way around, do you, man?
I was gonna say
Like,
maybe we'll get lucky. Come all the way around, and Melter will get it, and he'll say, "Hey, Doug, I found your comic book," and I'll go get it from Melter and eat some kind of food he made, and then I'll die.
yours is safe, Dave. I packed and shipped yours well before I even got sick. I just started getting sick yesterday, and that's when I decided to stop packing books because I'm feeling too bad to do it, and also, it's probably not a wise idea to.
He said he farted on mine though, so it's probably got like.
Well, I mean, you're definitely going to get pink eye from yours.
I'm not gonna rub it on my face.
Oh, well, you don't have to do that. Like the gas will do that for you, sir. It'll just. It's like one of those little mushrooms that where you poof them and you see all that stuff come out. I don't
Man,
know. That probably sounds
when I
really
was a kid in
retarded.
elementary school, we found a whole patch of those and had a war. We was like throwing them at each other and they were
Can you
exploding.
imagine like that's actually technically like biological warfare? Could you imagine that
Called it
maybe like some kid you grew up with has mesothelioma because you were throwing those mushrooms at him?
Yeah, wouldn't that be awesome?
That stuff kind of scares me about the stuff I used to do as a kid to a degree. Like we
I
were
know
kind
it.
of
It's like how stupid were we as kids doing all this stuff. Kids today don't do none of that though. They don't do
no.
nothing. They sit and play Pokemon on their phones.
We didn't throw mushrooms at each other, but we had dirt clod wars, and oftentimes there was a rock inside of most of them.
Oh man.
What'd you do when you were a kid? Oh, we used to throw clumps of dirt at each other for fun.
Dude, we used to like. I remember at school. The reason we even found those is we was playing tackle football on the on the playground. You weren't supposed to play tackle football, but the playground it was like 50 yards from the school, and the teachers would sit up by the school building and smoke or talk. And we'd go down on this field and play tackle football, and there was probably at least 3 fist fights every day.
Yeah.
You know,
See, that's why I didn't like sports.
no teacher ever knew what was going on.
Like, I legitimately liked playing sports. I honestly did. I loved playing football, and I liked playing baseball too, man. I honestly did. I enjoyed the game. But I found that everybody else around me wanted to fight about every single thing, which kind of ruined the
I know.
game for me, at least, because, you know, you don't have an honest game of basketball. You got these fucking mile high black dude who's going to just push you down on the ground every 2 seconds and stuff like that.
Now, we didn't have no black dudes around here.
But no, it just, I don't know. Sports are pretty damn toxic, man. All things considered. Like, it's hard for somebody to just honestly enjoy the sport without the other nonsense.
Well, you know who usually ruins most sports are grown-ups.
Yeah.
Like you, I haven't been this. I didn't get to go this year because of work. But like last year, anytime I'd go to my nephew's basketball games, there would be adults just like about to have a stroke, freaking out over these games.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, dude, it's just a game. Let the kids have fun. People want to fight and scream and yell.
Oh, yeah. That
And
happens a lot.
These are
That's
supposed
what
to
I
be
mean.
these are supposed to be Christian schools too.
Sports just seem like a very toxic thing.
Dave says he likes sumo wrestling.
Sumo wrestling. Ain't that where they just have to push each other out of the circle?
Yeah, but they're both wearing diapers.
I got
Let me
two
tell you,
guys.
I've wrestled dudes in diapers and naked dudes. It ain't no fun.
Okay, cool. My prescriptions are ready. I love the year 2023, man. I gotta say, because I was sick today, so I just ended up looking at my insurance thing on my phone, and it was like, "Hey, do you want to talk to a specialist?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." I didn't have to go anywhere. I was just like, "Hey, bro, can you give me some shit for like this cough and stuff like that? I got COVID." And he's like, "Yeah, sure, bro. I got you." And then that was it. I didn't have to. Didn't cost me anything, or I didn't even have to go anywhere. It's kind of cool. First time I ever did something like that.
Yeah, I don't do that. I wouldn't go to the doctor or do that. So
I knew what to ask for too, though, because I've had this crap before, and they gave me I forget what it's called, but I had the bottle on me at the time. But there was this one pill that they gave me, which was a good cough suppressant because it didn't make me feel like I was high.
when I went the last time and had COVID, they didn't give me anything. They said, "You got COVID." Bye. Which that was the second time I'd had it, so it wasn't no big deal.
This is the third time for me, and it's not that bad. I feel terrible. I'm just achy all over. I just feel like doo doo, but I don't feel like I'm gonna die or anything. It's just feel like crap.
I'm already tired of being here. I want to go home.
Okay, out of the ring or touch the floor with anything but the soles of your feet. It's like Dragon Ball. I don't know how that's like Dragon Ball, but
They just yell and scream at you and go, ah, and charge up their power.
yeah, they like blow up the arena and stuff too. Like they destroy everything around them.
Roshi Paradox said he had got COVIDs on January 1st, and they prescribed him one of those emergency COVID meds, and they tasted bad.
Yeah, I've never gotten anything prescribed for COVID. Like the cough stuff I was asking for, they gave me when I had the flu earlier this year. Actually, in December, they had given that stuff to me. So I just asked for that and some ibuprofen and some extra strength Tylenol.
I can't take ibuprofen. It messes with my stomach. I always got to find something else to take.
Ibuprofen is terrible for everybody's stomach. It's good to take in moderation, but don't ever take it like on the regular because you will just.
I can't even take.
Insides.
I can't hardly take any, dude. It murders me. Then I start having blood shoot out of my body all over and everything. It's nasty.
If I take it for a few days, it'll really mess my stomach up. But it's good for when I'm sick, though. I don't take stuff very often, man. Like I don't even really take Tylenol or anything.
I used to not take anything, but I take quite a bit of Excedrin anymore because I get bad headaches.
I just drink coffee and smoke my devil's cabbage, and that's pretty much all I do. I don't even take Tylenol really. I'll take it if I have like a fever or something, but if I have a headache, man, most of the time I just roll with it. I'm just like, I have a headache.
Headache for 3 days the other day. It wasn't any fun. That was also that one night I had the crazy stuff going on. I felt like I was being attacked.
Oh yeah, that sleep paralysis stuff. Yeah, that's some scary stuff, man. Because you feel like if you drift back to sleep, you're never gonna wake back up. So you're like struggling to like wiggle your big toe or something like that, and and then as soon as you can wiggle something, like you snap awake, and you're like, "Whoa, what's going on, man?"
Yeah, but you think you're awake the whole time, which terrifying.
Well, you kind of are. Your mind is awake, but your body isn't.
But I felt like there was literally somebody. It was like I was laying there, and I started to go to sleep, and somebody something just come down over me and put their hands on me and was like pushing down. And so I started fighting, and I woke myself up that time, and I did not want to go back to sleep. But I was so tired, I started drifting back to sleep. And as soon as I did, it started all over again. It was like somebody took their hand and put it on my back, like because I was on my side, and it's like their hand went into my back and was like, I don't know, dude. I freaked out.
That's a lot of like it can be caused a lot of times by like stress or even how you sleep. Like it was happening to me a lot because I was going under a lot of stress at the time, and I was also napping in a recliner. It would always happen when I would like nap in like a recliner or something like that when I was stressed out. It can also be linked to like sleep apnea too, like when you stop breathing while you're sleeping.
Well, so see, I just laid down. I think it's where I felt so bad because I had it's pretty much a migraine for 3 days.
Yeah, it's probably just built up stress and stuff. It's scary shit, but I've never heard of it actually killing anybody. So
yeah, but you don't ever know because what if they died in their sleep?
But what I mean is like I used to get it a lot, and it is scary when it happens. Just always remember, like, this isn't gonna kill me. This is just stress. The
next
try
night,
to stay calm.
I was so weary of going to bed. I took my tablet in there with me and plugged it on and turned the King of the Hill on. And like, so all night long, I kind of had Hank Hill in my head. Made me feel better.
Oh, protect me, Lord Hank Hill,
Well, like
the saint of propane and propane accessories.
last night, I fell asleep watching. There's a guy I watch that plays drums. He's always talking about drums. And so I had a dream that this guy I used to play music with like 10 years ago, that we were playing music and he was explaining all this boring drum stuff to me. And I finally woke up and I look at it, and it's a video of a guy talking. And it was like, I've been
Oh,
listening
yeah.
to this dude, and I seriously dreamed, put a face to the voice in my head. It was so weird.
One time I fell asleep on the floor in front of the TV. And at the time, like, we used like my PlayStation as like a CD player too.
Mm-hmm.
So like while I was like falling asleep, like on the couch, like just from watching TV after playing and everything, my dad, I guess he had put on a Kenny G CD. And then all I remember was like, I started having this weird dream where I was trapped on an elevator and I couldn't escape. Like that was just it. I was just on an elevator and it just kept going down. Like it just wasn't stopping. Like it wasn't going too fast or
That's funny.
anything. Like it was just alarming because I had no idea where I was going, but I was just stuck on that elevator the whole time. It was just Kenny G just playing in the background, just da 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 da, that stuff. And that was wild, man. I woke up and I was like fighting for my life because like I felt like I was spent an eternity on an elevator, and I just like came out of it just like waving my arms and everything, kicking.
That's funny.
Yeah, strange things happen when you listen to stuff in your sleep. Like I've had dreams about the Warhammer universe, and they're actually pretty lore accurate because I would often fall asleep while listening to these Warhammer 40K videos.
Yeah, and your brain keeps hearing that, so it makes, it makes something to go with it. It's weird.
But I hate those fever dreams, man, where you like end up dreaming about the same thing over and over again.
And it won't stop.
And it won't stop, and it's just getting on your nerves so bad. You're like, please, for the love of God, let me dream about anything but hot dogs one more time.
Dude, that's kind of what that I'm surprised like that I was having nightmares there night instead of like crazy fever dreams, because I don't know. That's usually what happens.
Hank Hill wouldn't let anything happen to you this day.
You seen Hiroshi Paradox said, he said you went to sleep with King of the Hill and woke up with no butt and a narrow urethra.
And then you have all this propane paraphernalia scattered all over your room. Check valves, the
Propane
works.
accessories.
But yeah, it was cool to see you stream because I was thinking about streaming too. I mean, or I was streaming and then I stopped and then I saw that you had come on. I was like, oh, hey.
Yeah, this
Deal.
stupid Chromebook. Like, it'll run my camera fine. So I was like, I keep getting warnings that I've been using StreamYard too much because I don't pay for it. And I was like, well, I'll just use Streamlab, and downloaded it, and it's a turd. It doesn't work good on here.
That's unfortunate because I actually like using Streamlabs now. I'm still kind of learning it and getting used to it and everything. But
I
you
like it
really
on my
turned me
computer.
on to it.
I get on my computer. I don't like the Android app, though. The Android, it's lame.
I really need to work on getting like a second monitor though, because like when I'm playing video games and everything, I just can't see the chat or anything anymore at all. I just have to literally just whip my phone out and watch my own stream and hang out in the chat that way.
We got Pixel Trader in here. What's up, Pixel Trader?
Hey.
Skinny was showing off his lunchbox earlier. You missed it.
I'll show it off again if you want me to, but
Yeah, show it off.
you're gonna have to give me a moment.
I don't know if I told you, Skinny. I got the letters for the second half of Lone Wolf in.
Oh, cool deal.
Yeah. And so I think I'm going to I'm going to print three versions of the book.
Oh,
I'm going to do a glow in the dark cover. I'm going to do a metallic cover, and I'm going to do Andrew that did the first half of the book drew a really cool like throwback to like 50s cowboy comics.
yeah.
He did a really cool cover, and I'm going to print those three. But the book's going to be black and white. And once I get this first little story arc done and collect it in a book, I'll have the whole book colored.
Do you find that you are taking Lone Wolf in the direction you originally intended, or do you feel like now that you've had a lot more time to kind of like sit back and now you've had more experience with like Psychotron and stuff? Sorry if this is like an interview kind of question, but I don't know. I was kind of curious about that. Like if you're approaching it the same way as you were when you originally started, or do you feel like, the story and everything has evolved
The
in the
story's
time that you've had to be away?
it's kind of the same. Yeah, it's going in the same direction. Uh, I don't know. I got the idea for the story, and the hardest part for me was doing the second book because I knew what I wanted to do, but I didn't know how to do it. But the rest of it, I kind of got it planned out.
Okay.
See, there's Fly Fox Pro. He's the one that lettered the second half of the book.
Yeah. And I hear you're going to try to start lettering yourself as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna try. I don't know how that's gonna come
I
out.
recommend it, even though, it helps. It will improve you as a writer without a doubt, because you'll have a better idea of how much you can have any one character say in a panel too. Because, as a writer, you throw a script at a letterer, and it's their job to figure out how to make that happen.
Well, and I don't even try. Sometimes I just edit Doug, and he doesn't, because
Yeah,
it's
I
a
had to do that
collaboration at that point.
on a few things that I was doing for like Legends. It's like, hey, Doug, I was like, you got like a whole 3 paragraphs here, and like I have maybe room for like 3 words.
Well, see, the
What do
thing
I-
too is, I write a script and I don't look at it again until I get the art back. And sometimes the artist doesn't take into account that there's, more words there, and they'll give you a little bitty panel. So, as long as the gist of what I'm wanting said is in there, and Fawfawk
Yeah,
has been really good about pretty much getting what I want, and he adds a little here and there, and I like it. Doesn't hurt my feelings none.
yeah, you were really easy to work with when I would have to message you and be like, hey, I don't have
As,
room for this, so I put this instead. Is that cool? And you're like, yeah, that's right on, man.
yeah, I mean, I'm not super particular.
But that will help with your writing in the future, because you'll have a better idea and understanding of, what you're allowed to be able to do.
I'm just going to do like DC and just like if I have to, I'll just cut a panel out and put it on a page and then put word balloon that takes up the whole rest of the page. Every page will be a speech with like 2 panels on it.
Sometimes the art from Eric is enough to convey what we're trying to get across. So
Yeah.
sometimes it's like it's better to just leave it blank, I think.
That's why typically I don't even have necessarily a script. I just kind of draft out the comic and send Carlos that. Like, I have a general idea in my head of like what they are going to say in that instant, but I usually wait to write a lot of the dialogue until I see the art, because sometimes, what I write may not uh, work as well with the facial reaction that Carlos has written for that character, or something to that effect, or maybe I just don't have the room that I thought I was going to.
See, with like Psychotron 2, I'll have to go in and write the dialogue because the first Psychotron, I did it right after Lone Wolf 1. And so it was a full script. I mean, everything was scripted, panel numbers, everything, hardcore. And with Psychotron 2, I started and then I was like, Eric is just like so easy to work with. I'm like, Eric, if I just write you out paragraphs of what I want to happen on this page, is that cool? And he's like, yeah. So once we got so far in, I just started writing paragraphs and writing some lines along with it, to kind of tell,
And honestly, there's no perfect way to do it, but at least from my point of view, it's way easier to write your dialogue in the lettering process because then you can do a lot more to have it, more geared to work and flow better with the art. Like even Fly Fox was talking, sometimes Eric's art did all the talking for you, so it was kind of moot to say anything else.
With Lone Wolf and Psychotron, though, you've got to throw those one-liners, and sometimes the one-liners have to go with the art. Because I don't know how to describe it. It just kind of adds more of what I want in the art.
Yeah.
And like a lot of Lone Wolf dialogue, because I have stuff in there. People's probably going to say it's offensive. Mad Dog calls Wolf an engine. He's like, oh, there's an engine.
Yeah.
And I wrote those lines. I was like, these lines have to be in there. It just conveys who that character is.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think that helps with the art too, because you get a feeling a guy that talks like that, what kind of facial expressions. He's going to be lazy and kind of mean because he's a turd.
Like you.
Yeah, that character's based on me 100%.
Hey, that's your self-insert.
I'm the bad guy. I'm going to die in this first story arc somewhere.
Have you thought about it or have you done it? Like, kind of put yourself in one of your works at some point? Like, written yourself into a character, even if it's a minor one?
No. It doesn't even occur to me. When I'm writing the story about a character, I think about the story from that character's point of view. So,
yeah.
Like, because when you read a book, a lot of times that's how you read the book. You're not reading it as like, well, as a comic book. You're not reading Superman like you're the guy sitting on the outside. You're reading it like either you're standing right beside of him or you're seeing it through his eyes.
So you're never gonna like write a book that's kind of like a self-insert of you that's like that version of Thor from the Dexter's Laboratory, whatever the hell his name was.
No, I'm gonna write a book.
God.
I'm gonna write a book where I'm fighting Santa Claus and I'm naked.
Oh, that sounds pretty cool though.
No, I'm not gonna do that.
But no. I mean, I put us in issue 2.
Yeah.
But I killed us off like immediately.
I've been wanting to like just insert some people.
It always annoyed me how everybody, for at least at that time when I was kind of like planning everything out, like for whatever reason, it was like this big anti-self-insert rhetoric was going on. And it was just like across the board, everybody was just like, oh, this is terrible. So I just thought it would be funny just to throw myself in there and just immediately kill myself and be like, this is how you should do a self-insert. It's like enough to where you can like wave or wink to the audience and then get out of there. Like, don't ever be a Stephen King, though. Like in the Dark Tower series.
Issue 3 of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles has Peter Laird and Kevin Eastman in it as the people who are trying to steal April O'Neil's purse.
Yeah. Stuff like that is pretty fun. I don't like it when they're actually like a central character, though.
Oh, yeah, like some sort of postmodern Grant Morrison type thing. It's like, all right.
I've got this big fight scene that's going to start right in the start of Lone Wolf 3. Maybe I'll insert myself there in that fight scene and get murdered.
I think it's a fun exercise, man, because even your audience kind of tends to get a kick out of stuff like that too. You know.
Man, I think that when there's like a whole bunch of little Easter egg references, cameos like that, it kind of gets on my nerves. If it's like one or two, it's okay. But if it's just like everything's a reference, everything is someone stuck in there, I'm like, it's distracting. And if
That's
it's
kind
if
of
it's
the way it is for Otis, though. But I wouldn't say it's distracting because, like just throwaway characters are people that I know. Like,
Well, yeah, we'll see though. You didn't make it it's not an obvious, like not everybody
yeah,
will. I know. I get what Hiroshi's paradox is saying. It's like if you know everything's a little wink and a little Easter egg, it does get kind of monotonous.
yeah, there is too much.
and if it's like real people, and it's not like you're super duper close friends, but it's just like, hey, I know this guy online, and you see all these people. Part of me is like, oh, I'm kind of aware of that person, and how long is it going to be until they regret that they put that person in the book?
Yeah.
That's also why, like, everybody I put in Otis, I kill off. Because then, like, if that person turns out to be a turd, like, anybody who comes up to me would be like, well, Skinny had this person in their book. And I'd be like, yeah, and I ripped him in half.
What's funny right now is Skinny's picture there is him in somebody else's comic book.
Oh, yeah, that too. I forget which common book that's from. But one thing that I will say that I don't like even more is when people put people they don't like in their works. They really hate this guy on Twitter, so they're gonna make a villain exactly like that guy and like name it after him. I don't understand why you would waste so much energy on somebody you don't like. That never made any sense to me, like the whole Spike thing. Like, I've done covers where we kind of poke fun at, like, you know, the dialogue filled pages and the copy paste stuff, like, you know, but that's just
You're
more
not
poking fun at
crucifying
the industry
commentary
itself. But
comic.
like when you like put like Doug Ernst as a villain in Moon Knight, like I don't see the point in that. Or
Yeah, that's stupid.
other people using that to like own somebody. Like, who cares? Like that's just gonna date your book anyways. Like, nobody's gonna understand what that even is later.
Yeah, so in like issue 3 of Psychotron, we're kind of going to poke fun at all the weebs.
Yeah.
You're gonna poke fun at me?
There's going to be some robots that are like blatantly supposed to be anime characters, and this is going to be awesome. It's going to be really goofy.
One of the edits I did in Psychotron, I don't know if you would call it an edit. I just made a piece of dialogue that is one of the ninjas saying "nani" in Japanese, and it's in the kanji, and so like only like someone who speaks Japanese or is some sort of like super weeb is ever gonna know what that is unless they watch the stream, of course.
No
And,
weebs
like,
by
I had to look it up because I don't know. I don't know.
no weebs by Psychotron.
Yeah.
Maybe they will though if I put like on the cover is Psychotron punching an anime girl in
You
a.
just have to find somebody that does like a real anime style and do that as an alternative cover, and they'll buy it up. You know.
Don't get me started on alternate covers. I am so not the right audience for indie comics because like so much of indie comics in this circle that we're in comes out of people who are really into mainstream comics when they were a kid, and I was never really into that stuff. So everything that everybody wants to, you know, ape off of is all stuff that I think is stupid.
Same with me. Same with me. I didn't read any.
Because like when I see people who are doing like all their promotional art for their books is like alternate covers and things that they've commissioned other people to do, that feels like such a mainstream comics thing to have all these alternate covers. And I'm like, Why not sell it off of your art instead of somebody else's art?
Well, let's see. Like, I like to have a couple alt covers just because of the people that I know.
Yeah.
You know, because I can't really.
I
Get,
mean, I understand that too. That it's fun to be able to be like, "Hey, I like this guy, or I like this guy's art. I want to put it on my book." So it's like, I can see myself being hypocritical about that, but also I'm just like,
well, there.
You
I mean, at some points, it is a little ridiculous.
It's always ridiculous.
We had a lot of fun on Psychotron with all the alt covers. And I actually think from here on out, when I do an alt cover, it's just going to be a different version of the book. Because, like, we did the deluxe version and then a regular.
yeah, something to differentiate that this is a different version.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I am going to do the 90s thing and do a Lone Wolf 2 will have a metallic cover and a glow in the dark cover. Just because.
And a scratch and sniff cover.
Yeah, we'll get one that smells like farts.
Smells of the dystopian future.
Yeah, this is what everybody smells like in the future. Grungy
This is what
farts.
Doug's room smells like while he was writing this comic.
Yeah, farts.
So, Doug, it's Doug After Dark, but you have the lights on today. What's up with that?
Yeah, my camera wouldn't even work with the lights off today. I don't understand. So I had to turn it on. You got to see my face.
You should get one of those crappy dollar store ring lights that you clip on over the camera that never fit and never work right.
Well, we got Zippy the Unicron there in the chat.
I missed that version of Doug Tonight.
I dropped the link in there, Zippy. I think you can have 37 people in a stream now.
Well, Zippy's like counts as like 38 though. He's like a celestial being.
I called him Unicron, so he's going to destroy Cybertron. He's going to eat it. Yeah.
I want to make some more coffee.
Man, I wish I had some coffee. All I got's this sugar-free Monster drink. I got another one over there, but I'm not going to drink it because then I won't never go to bed tonight.
I had a
think I've
Monster today
hardly-
for the first time in like, I don't know, 4 years or something. They were giving them away for free at work, like the Monster company actually, and so I took one.
Do you
And
work at a
it'll
college?
be whenever there's another free one. That'll be the next time I have one.
That's
Last
like what
time
they
it
would
was
always
free, this
do.
time it was free.
I think the last time I had an energy drink was probably 2000 and
I like them. They give me energies.
maybe 2010. I'm already skinny. I drink coffee. I'm already like a bundle of energy. That would just give me a heart attack. I don't have the need for something.
See,
like that.
I drink coffee, but there's no coffee maker here. Can't make none. Because I'm not at the place where I like to be at the home. Zippy says, see, all the cool guys are grooming themselves.
Yeah.
Dave has to shave for work. And Zippy's washing his hair. I wash my hair. I got head hair. I washed my
took a
beard.
shower
too.
today.
I washed the crap out of my beard. It smells excellent.
You had crap in your beard?
I ain't tended my beard for like 2 days.
I washed the crap out of it, Hiroshi Paradox. Smells delicious. Actually, it smells like Irish Spring.
I smell like a Wuhan lab.
Aha. Beard. I'm going to trim my beard sometime. Probably after I lose about 600 pounds. So, Unicron was Orson Welles' last performance. It sure was. And a lot of it they had to add like effects to because he was so weak he couldn't hardly even like.
Oh, I thought you were going to say because he was so drunk, like those wine commercials he
He
did.
probably
I was
was.
gonna bring up those
Probably was drunk.
commercials.
He was drunk. Well, we got somebody else in the thing. Let me see if I can scroll down there to let them in the. No, we don't. It just changed for some reason. Oh, that's what it is. We got a Firefox shared something.
Oh, cool.
I clicked on it. I can't see it yet because my Chromebook's too dang slow. That looks like a cowboy lady.
Cowboy lady.
Cowboy lady.
A cowboy lady? Yeah. I'm a little concerned about that one, Doug.
Well, hey, you can't. I didn't want to choose a specific gender. You can't.
So you chose two.
Exactly. Cowboy lady. That looks like a cow woman. See, when you say cow woman, you think somebody like that's in a furry suit or something.
I was just thinking of someone who's has to go everywhere in a hover around.
Oh man.
My dad would always get pissed off at those hover around commercials. It's like, what do all these old ladies need to do going to the these old ladies have got no business going to the Grand Canyon and hover around. What the hell?
What's really
Yeah, I
funny is
remember
like that last shot of that commercial, they're like on the top of the mountain, and you're like, what the hell?
Places
How did
hover
they
around.
get airlifted up there? Like, there's
Yeah.
no way.
Like their hover around obviously was a 4x4 monster truck. I made it up to the top of Mount Rushmore. Driving on
Mount
George
Rushmore
Washington.
actually really small.
I went to my mom and dad's the other night, and they were watching Monster Jam.
They show it on TV.
Like they were watching it on YouTube.
Oh,
I hadn't watched Monster Truck since I was a small child.
it came to Arizona, but my parents never took us. That cost money.
I remember when we were car shopping once when I was like 6 or 7, and one of the dealerships had a huge monster truck in there that you could climb up into and sit in for a minute.
When I sold my Camaro a few years ago, I sold it to a Ford dealership, and when we went in, they had a Bigfoot replica in there. It was really cool. I asked them if they would trade, and they
Ford
wouldn't.
dealership.
Yeah,
That sounds
kind of
like-
funny. They made me an offer, and I was like, okay. I thought it was weird that a Ford dealership wanted to buy my Camaro. You know what you ought to do is put some Daisy Dukes on her, and then like make that stubble on her legs.
There you go.
And then color her
Extra
hair
her
pink.
pants.
Color her hair pink, and then everybody will get it. Or blue. Make her a blue hair.
No.
See, I could never do the monster truck thing because I was the only boy. So I would always get outvoted when it came to choosing family activities. We did gay stuff, like we went to see Titanic. Yay.
I never got to go to see monster trucks in real life because we were poor. But
Yeah, I didn't get to go because my family are shut-ins, so we didn't go anywhere.
we're kind of like that too. Used to, if you went anywhere with my dad, we could be driving 600 miles. And if we stopped to get something to eat, we'd never eat inside. It was like it was go to the drive-thru and eat in the car. Never went inside.
Yeah,
Ever.
it was always
Not
drive-through.
even to poop?
I had to go take a dump at a Taco Bell when I was a kid, but the toilet was like overflowed to the edge.
Is it
I
about, like-
really had to go, so I still had to deal with it.
What is it with like our bodies in road trips? Like the moment like we get into a road trip, like we could be fine, we go to the bathroom, everything appears to be on empty, but as soon as you're on that road for like 30 minutes, your stomach starts to grumble like immediately.
Yep.
And you're
It's
like,
like, oh, man.
oh, here we go. I'm only
I gotta
30
poop
minutes
now.
in.
When I was working in Dallas, I would occasionally take the train to work, which still have to drive like 15 minutes to the train station, and then it adds like another half hour to the already ridiculous commute. But there's no toilets on the train, so I get on the train on like right after work, and about 15 minutes later, it's like, oh no! But it's still an hour and a half before I even get to the my car. I'm like, what
That's
am I
when
gonna
you bring
do?
a doggy bag or something, you know.
Just wear a diaper and poop yourself.
Yeah, they got those Depends that you can barely see now.
I don't remember what I was getting. I was getting something out of the like pharmacy section of Walmart a while back, and I walk by the adult diapers aisle, and I see the Walmart brand adult diapers, and that bottle they had this big Bubba wearing this diaper with so much pride. It was the most disturbing thing I've ever seen.
Those adverts are kind of like I don't want to see them, like
Yeah.
People's
because it's
happy.
always right next to like the tampons and stuff. And since I'm married,
What
you know, I
What's
get
weird to
sent
me
in
is
there.
the people on the things and in the ads are always so happy that they poop their pants.
Yeah.
Like, no, I wear the pins and I can poop my pants.
Did you guys ever see that commercial? It was it was as seen on TV garbage, but it was like this special plastic wand that you put toilet paper on, so you
Oh
didn't have to
yeah,
wipe
for
your own
fat
butt.
people who couldn't reach their own butt.
Yeah, but
I
like
remember
most of
that.
the people on there weren't fat people, the testimonials, and they had this one woman who was just way too into it. It's like, oh, now I can wipe myself with pride and dignity.
That's terrible.
It's the
Fox,
most ridiculous commercial.
What?
what are you working on?
This is not my artwork.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
I own it. I own it. It is something I own. No, this is a cover to the novel I'm writing. Art
Oh,
by Matt
cool.
Krotz.
I can't see the art. I can just see all the colors. My screen's way too small.
Yeah, is that your color work or?
No, it's all him. I designed the layout and everything, and then he worked off of my drawing. Let's see if I can find mine. You can see the difference in. So there's mine, which is more.
See, I
my
like yours
style.
more, honestly.
I was gonna say I like yours more too.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not trying to poop on anybody. I just like I like your style more, man. Something
like
like
your
that.
style
It
more,
looks
though.
good. I'm not saying it doesn't, but I see it really often. But I don't see your stuff. I don't see your style that often.
The colors though do look good for it. Like if you said it was for a novel.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Like, for a comic book, like in the internal pages and everything, I like my style better too.
Yeah.
But for a novel cover, I think.
Yeah, I can see what you mean there.
Yeah, I do too.
So it's called the
I'll tell you-
Basilisk King. What's that?
I think the best artist that needs to be used for like doing like novel covers is Jeff Lasley. That dude's paintings are insane.
Yeah, he did one for me for Otis that I'm using for a hardcover trade.
Yeah. I'm going to get that because that's like the coolest thing ever. And I like that he painted Otis's butt hanging out.
Well, I specifically asked for that one too.
I know you did, but I mean, I it's so cool knowing that he painted it.
Yeah, I made him paint that. Next, I'm going to make him paint some horses.
You should with big butts. Around motorcycles because he doesn't like motorcycles either.
I want him to draw a horse with a tattoo of a horse. It's a tattoo of a horse. It'd just be like an Inception kind of thing.
I'm going to ask him to do a lone wolf riding a motorcycle with a picture of a horse on the gas tank.
Man, Jeff really hates drawing horses. I'm not sure why, but man.
Oh, drawing animals sucks, man. It's hard. Unless you really get down the mechanics and work on getting it. Like Gary Shipman can draw animals really well because he practiced it. And
I can't even draw people, so it doesn't really matter. I can't draw nothing.
Zippy says the urge comes from the rumble of the car. Yeah, I always swear if you ever have like a serious bout of constipation, just go on a road trip, man. Like that will trigger.
Yeah, but who wants to poop when you get far away from home?
I have that
Well,
book.
I mean, I think when you're constipated for a few days. Oh,
How to
Gary
go
Shipman wrote that book.
Well, he didn't write it, but this is the one he
No.
recommends.
Oh, okay. I thought I couldn't read the text, but I saw you
Yeah.
pointing at the name.
Hey, that's like a book from the 50s or 60s.
Yeah, but this is the one that Gary used to. I mean, he bases all of his animal
It's a pretty
drawings off
good
of what
book
he
for
learned
doing
in this.
animals.
And then it's just repetition because basically animals are constructed the same, very similar, and the way that they run and everything is very similar. You just have to like kind of learn the particulars of whatever animal you're doing.
Yeah, we had to do a bunch of animal illustrations when I was in an illustration class in college. It was a bear because animals are weird. I did not actually draw a bear. It was a bear.
I had a teacher, an art teacher, that I didn't like. It looked like a chicken. So every
I
day,
had one who looked like a catfish.
every day, we had a sketchbook we had to do, and every day I drew some kind of chicken doing something. And she got really mad. I think she realized that I was making fun of her because she looked like a chicken.
I had a
She's like,
calculus.
"Go ahead."
Excuse me. I had a calculus teacher in college who looked like a giant duck. He was like the most stereotypical nerd-looking guy, and he was like 7 feet tall. And every time he was erasing the board, he didn't do it like a normal person. He would like bend his knees all the way down, and he always had his lips out like a duck. He was just the most ridiculous human being I've ever seen.
Sounds ridiculous.
See, you said duck the first time I heard it. I thought you said he looked like a giant Doug.
Looked like a giant dog.
And I just kind of was envisioning like a giant Doug, like crouching down because he's like way too big for the classroom and stuff.
Doug, teach.
I had a PE coach that straight up looked like Mario. Like
It's a me.
100%. I'm not even trying to be joking.
Do 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 do.
Don't you
do.
ever tell him that though.
Man, they did not want to actually teach PE when I was in high school. It was like if you weren't on a sports team, it was kind of just like whoever was in charge of us. And so some days it would just be the groundskeeper, and we would just do physical labor to help him out.
See, that actually sounds like fun. Like when I was in
It
PE,
wasn't.
like I was always like a thin guy. I did play sports like after school with my friends and stuff like that once we got off the bus. But no, during PE at school, I just wanted to sit on the bleachers and hang out with the people like I didn't see very often, you know?
Yeah, we did that sometimes. They just give us like a study hall. And we just
But
did whatever.
We just
They
played
really-
hacky sack all the time.
They kept threatening to fail me out of PE because I wouldn't ever dress out because
Yeah.
that was the only way to get to sit on the bleachers. They're like, well, we're going to fail you out of PE. I'm like, I don't care. Like, ooh. You wrote on a paper that I don't participate in physical activities. Okay. All right. That's fine. I don't care. And I didn't care. It wasn't a class that would interfere with whether or not you actually passed. So it wasn't a big deal.
Yeah, we only had to take like 1.5 years required. After that, I was like, I'm done.
Well, what got me mad is I actually joined band and played the snare to get out of PE. And then suddenly, like halfway through the year, they're suddenly like, okay, well, now we're going to cut band time in half because now you guys got to go take the other half at PE. And I'm like, man, what the hell? I even told them, I'm like, I joined band to avoid that crap. Like, what is this nonsense?
Yeah, I went to a small school, so they didn't have options for any other things you could take. Like I hear some schools they have all these different classes you can take. I'm like, oh, some of
Yeah.
those sound interesting.
The school I went to offered you could either take sports conditioning or weightlifting. They were essentially the same class. You just went and worked out.
Yeah.
So I took that all 4 years. You know, being on the football team, you kind of were expected to be in that class.
School wasn't too bad though.
I didn't like it while I was there, and then when I got to college, I was like, "Oh, I miss high school because this sucks worse."
I never really had a high school, so to speak. Like I went to one of those charter schools for high school.
I remember you saying that. Yeah.
And that was just basically, it was just like a section of a strip mall where I would go in and they would have a room that you would go in to get the books that you needed for whatever class you were going to study for. But you just worked at your own pace. And as you did work, you earned credits. And as soon as you earned 24 credits, you know, you were out the door with the diploma. And in theory, you could get your high school diploma in just a couple months if you worked your butt off. I didn't. I just wrote notes with all the pretty girls.
That was in Tucson, Skinny?
Yeah. Pep Tech or P Pep Tech.
Yeah. I remember you saying that.
Yeah, that was off of, I want to say it was like off of Ina. It was over there close to the Foothills Mall. And
Yeah.
I don't know if it's still up, but like right before I ended up leaving that one to go to another one, they had built a 99-cent only store, which was pretty awesome.
Oh, so it was there. Did they buy Old Father Inn?
I think
Like,
so.
I know Old Father. Yeah.
I mean, it's been years. I'm not really. I remember like for the school, we were right next to. We had a Goodwill on one side of it, and then the other side was actually a skate shop for skateboards.
Way back in the day, Agape Christian Books was in that, and then so like just went down the street, but I know Thornydale is where Bookman goes.
Yeah, I miss it, man. Like I loved living in Arizona. I thought it was great. I loved the weather. I loved the people for the most part. Like that's still one of the friendliest places I have ever been because I would have strangers like invite me to barbecues and stuff. Just people I would meet, just doing my daily commute on the bus and stuff like that. It was, I don't know, it had a different atmosphere, at least in the time that I was there.
I saw you mixing up that orange drink, Doug.
It's actually red drink. It looks orange though, because my camera's terrible.
Oh, do you do those little? Yeah, I do those too.
Sonic Cherry Lime.
I like the Hawaiian Punch ones. And
yeah, those are good too.
Orange Crush ones. Those are the ones that I usually.
Did you ever try the? What was it? What's the candy? Starburst. Ever try those? They used to have a raspberry one that was blue, and it was the best ever.
There was a Jolly Rancher one I remember, but they all were kind of sour, and I don't like sour stuff too much. I used to.
I get the limited ones sometimes.
This is a little watered down.
I think I like sour stuff before I realized that it was actually like chemical burns going on in your mouth. Once I realized that that's not really healthy stuff to consume.
Yeah.
I've tried like the 7-Up flavor of those drink mixes.
Oh.
I can't do those like ones where it's just like the flavor without the carbonation. It just feels like really sweet, flat drink.
Like root beer. Have you tried the root beer?
I can't stand root beer anyway, so no.
They have like a taste that actually tastes like carbonation too. It's so weird. Like when you get some of those, or even in the candy form, like it tastes carbonated for whatever reason.
I know, like if you get a snow cone and you want the sour flavor, all they do is they spray some like pure citric acid onto it.
They need to make some that's hot sauce flavored.
Drinks.
Melter would buy all of those.
It's like when they used to make the gross flavored jelly beans, like booger flavors, and
Oh yeah.
Well, wasn't that like kind of a game though, where
Well, it was a game, but originally back in the day, they just released gross.
butter flavored and boogers and puke.
Then it was like some kind of Harry Potter thing, and then it was a game.
Yeah, I think it was Harry Potter because I remember it when I worked at a bookstore. We were selling them.
Well, see, they did it once back when I worked at Walmart, and it was just that was the late '90s. You remember in the '90s, everything had to be gross.
Yeah, creepy crawlers and
Yeah,
everything
I miss
was
creepy crawlers.
slimy and gross.
snot and
Yeah,
farts and
Like Nickelodeon
Like-
Gak.
The Doctor Terrible or whatever, where you could like make like gelatin brains and blood and all kinds of stuff.
yeah.
Or Doctor Horrible or something like that. I forget what it was called.
And they had a bunch of like really crazy toys in the 90s, but they were in like board games, but they were all so complicated and gimmicky that you never actually wanted to play them. But like all the toys were weird stuff like that. Like, here's some complicated thing to make
I had this
yummy
crazy
brains.
like battleship game, and it was like huge, and it wasn't like B4 or whatever. This was actually like you would shoot these little red discs
Yeah.
from submarines at at the other player's ship fleet, and there were like these little slots on these huge plastic battleships where when the thing went in, like a piece of it would blow off and stuff. Like, it's really cool, man. I'd love to get my hands on that. Like the 80s had like some of the best.
do you remember the
Stuff.
commercial for Crossfire?
Yes.
Crossfire, you'll be caught up in the crossfire.
Crossfire.
And he had all those like it looked like Thunderdome. Everybody's turning around.
Yeah.
Like, what's the
Yeah, get him.
My cousins had Crossfire. That one was actually really fun to play.
I always wanted it just because of the dang commercial.
It
My
was
cousins had all the board games back then, so we played that one
Hey,
a lot.
I
it
did have
played
Rocky
just
Top
as
and
well
Robots.
like on the commercials too. It wasn't like a
Yeah.
strap where it may or may not work.
Yeah.
I had
Do you remember
Rocky.
that show, Beekman's World?
Yes, I remember. Big
I had the board game for Beekman's World. That was pretty fun.
We always
Remember
watched it instead of Bill Nye.
Yeah, it was. I watched Beekman's World
Yeah, I
way
watched
more than I
because
watched.
Beekman was on like CBS before Ninja Turtles.
Yeah,
Yep.
And, I watched a lot of that, and whenever I think back to it, the one I remember most, there's this one scene where the guy Lester, the guy in the rat suit, he's standing there, and you see the stream of water coming from his waist. It looks like he's peeing on something, and Beekman's like, "What the heck, man? What are you doing?" And then he turns, and he's like, got a watering can because he was watering a plant.
yeah, the show was good, man.
I liked it. I enjoyed it.
I get the feeling he didn't turn out to be as much of a D-bag as Bill Nye.
Yeah.
Bill
Bill,
Nye is a
Bill Nye's
He
not
wasn't as
deep.
pretentious, probably because he was just an actor. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure.
Bill Nye's he's just an engineer anyway. He's not even a doctor. Bill Nye the engineer guy.
He's not even an engineer anymore. He's just a douchebag.
Yeah.
It's like he had that show on. Was it him that he had like a show
Netflix.
on Netflix or something? It was like awful.
It was all just like politics.
Like
Yeah.
craziness.
Which is funny because Bill Nye's technically a transphobe because way back in the day on this show, he talked about the differences between men and women, but you can't do that because it makes him a transphobe. Reverse transphobe. I don't know why they call that phobic anyways. If you don't support somebody because there's something, that doesn't mean you have a fear of it.
Well, it's just a way to classify it. That's in order to make it bad.
Yeah, instead of just saying normal. You will get caught up in the crossfire.
Yeah.
Uh,
Man, commercials for kids stuff was so good back then. Before they started saying, you can't have them do this because you don't want kids to. We can't have fun like cereal commercials
Did
because you don't want to encourage kids to eat sugar too much. So.
you ever see? They changed the Secret Galaxy, but did you ever see Toy Galaxy on YouTube? The host Dan Larson, like everything's about 80s toys and commercials and stuff. But Dan Larson, the host, posted on Twitter the other day about how he thinks all those child advocacy groups back in the 80s were right because everything today is just perpetual recreations of what came out in the 70s and 80s. We're all obsessed with the crap that was ingrained into our brains when we were children.
Yeah, but the ones who aren't, the kids don't care about any of that stuff. So it's all the adults who are into toys now.
Yeah. I could just tell you, in all honesty, I could not care less if I ever watch another Marvel or DC movie.
Same.
Yeah.
I stopped caring.
Ditto. Though I will say that the whole thing with MODOK looking like Joe Rogan, I find it was pretty hilarious. Not gonna lie,
Does he look like Joe Rogan?
he does to me.
I wish it was Joe Rogan. That would be kind of funny.
I guess they're getting backlash for it. I think the problem is they didn't want it. They didn't take the risk they should have. They should have made him look like really weird and stuff like that. But instead, it seems like they tried to play him safe and just made him a big CGI head that looks like Joe Rogan.
Is that another example of them putting somebody they don't like as a cameo in their book?
Oh, I think
as
it's
the bad
another
guy?
actor. It's just the way it's framed. It just looks like
Just
Joe
that
Rogan.
Joe Rogan has a giant head.
Did you
I
guys
think
ever
it's
watch?
actually another actor that's not Joe. But let's see. Cassidy had
It's his
made
brother,
a meme on it.
Bo Jogan.
Did you guys ever watch that Cartoon Network show, Megas XLR?
I've seen it, but I never actually sat and watched it.
I liked it a lot when it was out, but because it was before it became like the trend of everything to just do references of nerdy stuff.
Yeah.
It was like and so it was still kind of novel and funny. And they had one where they had a character who's basically a ripoff of MODOK, but it was Bruce Campbell's head and his voice. He was voicing it.
Oh man, I love Bruce Campbell.
Yeah.
Did you guys ever watch? Was it Jack of all trades? That show he did.
What is that?
That's what I mean. He looks like Joe Rogan.
It looks like Joe Rogan if he had cancer.
That's not. That's really what it looks like in the
Oh
movie.
God, that's hideous.
Yeah.
That's like Sonic level.
Well, that's what I was saying. I think what happened was that they didn't take the risk they should have. They should have made him look really weird and wrinkly like a prune and stuff like that. But I feel like they didn't. Maybe they probably thought if they made him look too weird, nobody was going to like it. So instead, they just like, hey, Mr. Potato Head.
It's like it looks like bad CGI, just on the a still photo.
It could be a good movie, but the thing is even though Ant-Man's like my favorite Marvel franchise, I'm not even interested in seeing any of it.
Yeah. I really like the Ant-Man movies, but I'm like you. I'm like, I don't really care.
I definitely like if I watch them, it'll be just like
Red
it definitely won't
Just
be
something to do.
Yeah,
It's
and
not
I
something
won't be
that you're
paying any
looking forward
money
to.
for it. You know, I do kind of want to see the Super Mario movie though.
I'm not. No, I'm not banging that one. I'm okay with that. Though I still don't like the idea of Jack Black being Bowser. I don't know. I'm Jack Blacked out. You know,
Or
I
Seth
grew up
Rogen
during
as
his heyday
Donkey
when he
Kong.
was all over everything.
Is it
so
really
I'm just-
Seth Rogen as Donkey Kong? Is that true?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not.
That kind
a
of turns me off. I hate that guy too.
I hope he's not in it very long. I don't like Joe Rogan either. Not Joe Rogan, Seth Rogen.
Oh, I like Joe. Rogan, man. Like even
Joe
if he
Rogan
is
stuck in my
MODOK.
brain.
Yeah, I can't stand Seth Rogen. He's another Bill Nye level douchebag.
Yeah, I do like Chris.
Then
Pratt.
again, who isn't in Hollywood?
Yeah, for real. I like Chris Pratt and I like Charlie Day. I think Charlie Day's hilarious.
I like those two. But like I said, like a lot of people like really gave me hell about it when I was like, I don't really like Jack Black as Bowser. I don't think that's a good fit. He doesn't sound villainous enough. Like they
I mean,
really needed to get
no.
like a black dude, like with a deep voice or something, kind of like with like Vader and oh, what was that guy's name that did the voice for Vader? James Earl Jones. You
Well,
know,
he
like you got to have somebody with some like maybe baritone. You know, like I don't know. I can't hear Jack Black's voice and think of a villain. Honestly, it's a little
Dillard.
We got
too on the
Dillard in the
deeper side.
chat. What's
Oh,
up?
no. Dillard's gonna judge my art now.
But that's
He-
just me. But I'm
yeah.
still gonna watch it. Like I'm still interested to see what they do with it because it can't be worse than the other one.
oh, I love the old one. It's
I do too.
nightmarish as it is.
So bad.
Yeah.
I've never seen it. I remember like as
Oh,
a
man.
kid, I'd beg my mom like, "Let's rent this one." No,
I
No.
love
this?
the Super
No.
Mario Brothers movie. Like, I think we were even talking about this on stream the
Yeah,
other
I
day,
think
Doug.
so.
Like, as its own movie, like not connected to Super Mario Brothers or anything, it's actually kind of neat. Like, it's a pretty cool movie.
Yeah, just
It
as like
has
a weird,
nothing to do with Super Mario Brothers.
just as a weird like sci-fi thing. I enjoy it.
I feel that way about like the Nolan Batman movies, honestly. Like, they are solid films on their own right. I just don't think they're good Batman movies.
I was really into the first one when it came out. That was like the time where I was most like, oh, pop culture nerd stuff, anything. I'm eating it all up. And then the second one, I'm like, okay, this is okay. The hype's a bit much. And the third one, I like bought the DVD, and it still took me like a year to actually watch it afterwards, and I just didn't care anymore.
I don't know. I don't like that hyper realism kind
Yeah.
of aspect. And
Yeah.
like a comic book movie should be goofy. It's based on what people once called funny books, for Christ's
Yep.
sake. Like let us like extend our belief a little bit, you
Yeah.
know? Like
Everything doesn't need to be gritty realism. You can have
No,
some
it
fun with it.
though I really did like their casting and the way that they did Scarecrow in the Nolan movies. I thought that was actually pretty cool.
Does Scarecrow in like the comics and cartoons ever actually have a? Did they ever like show him without the mask?
Yeah, yeah, there's all
few
kinds
times.
of stories based around him.
Okay.
Like even like the Secret Origins. I think there's one of him.
Because most of my like DC knowledge comes from the cartoons.
Same.
But no, in the comics, no, he did have a face and everything. He's like Crane or something like that. I forget his actual name. But yeah, I remember reading a lot of those. But I felt like in that he was the only villain I really felt like they did any justice in that whole trilogy because they messed up Bane, they messed up Catwoman. I feel like they messed up the Joker. I mean, for a clown
Yeah.
prince of crime, he only does one trick, and that's the disappearing pencil trick, which
And he
I
was
even find laughable as a Joker gag. You know, I like the Nicholson Joker when he killed the guy with the hand buzzer and like he pulled out like a ridiculously long
Because
he's
he was
supposed to be
scary,
the
but he was
clown
also
prince of
fun.
crime. He's not just supposed to be some scarred anarchist.
Yeah.
You know, like
Well,
I
and
felt like they really dropped the ball on that because you could have.
he had some good one-liners. This town needs an enema.
He did, but my problem was, it's like if you take away the face paint and you just call him something else, it doesn't change the movie at all.
Oh, I'm talking about Nicholson. I'm not talking about.
Oh,
I
the
didn't.
Nicholson one was great. I thought
Yeah.
Nicholson was the best Joker, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, beyond Mark Hamill doing the voice, and I don't even like Mark Hamill.
I don't need. Go from being like
as
one of
the
the
Joker or as a person on Twitter who's also an a-hole like
I
everybody else
like
in
Mark
Hollywood.
Hamill as like his voice work and stuff
Yeah.
like that, but as a person, I think he's just
he's Bill Nye different.
he's way out there. He's super woke, if you know what I mean.
I think he just says anything to keep working because he's not going to be in no more Star Wars.
Oh, you mentioned Vader's voice, James Earl Jones, a while ago. Oh, he like sold it. Didn't last year he sold the rights to his voice to be AI generated to Disney, so they can keep doing his voice forever now, and they
Yeah.
won't ever.
He'll be dead. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
want to be morbid, but he's not going to be around much, probably a whole lot longer.
Yeah, I mean that's
He's
he
so
wanted to
old
get
now
his.
that his voice is.
I don't blame
pretty
him though.
different.
That's like a way to be immortal, you know, like extending your legacy out like that. Like,
I mean, it'll be okay until they turn Vader trans and he has a woman's voice.
but at the same time, I think it's incredibly in bad taste to
Yeah.
replicate the dead.
If
I
he
mean,
sells
at
the
least
rights-
they actually paid him for the rights for it, unlike what they're going to do for everyone else, and just
I also liked all
do
those
it
Nolan
without them
Batman
wanting to.
films, by the way, Dillard.
I liked them all.
Talking about.
Like
The
I
last
said, they're
one was
not
the
bad
best one.
movies. I just don't think they're good Batman movies. They're still enjoyable to watch.
They're good Batman movies. They're
Don't
not.
tell
good super-
nobody.
And if
Don't
you're
tell
looking
nobody,
for,
but I actually liked Batman versus Superman.
I like Batman versus Superman.
Yeah, I like Justice League too.
Yeah, I like Justice League as well. I liked.
I'm not like a Snyder like fanboy, but I really do wish that they would have given him like a proper shot of actually pulling all that crap together, man. That's kind of disappointing. And now they got James Gunn's just going to poop all over everything.
I know.
'Cause
See, here's my thing: is like back in the day when a superhero movie came out every few years, and everyone was like, "Yeah, let's go see it, man. It's gonna be great." It felt like a special occasion, but now there's multiple ones every year, and I'm like, "All right, I'm just gonna go watch Columbo,
Yeah, but the thing is, like
Star Trek:
This-
The Next Generation."
the special, like they're not special anymore. It's the same movie over and over and over with slightly different characters.
That's the same math formula, basically. It's
But
just
you know,
they all look
it's-
the same because it's all that over-rendered CGI that always looks dreary and ugly.
I don't think
After
it's just that. I mean, it's like all the characters just have quippy one-liners. It's just it's all
after
the same.
Guardians of the Galaxy come out, they had to copy that formula for every movie.
Yeah, it was before that. You had the Iron Man stuff, but like the Hulk and things, it was different. And then Guardians of the Galaxy came out, and everything had to be that way.
Yeah, everything had to have the jokes and the
It's
comedy.
I kind of see
They were
Gunn
good.
as like the equivalent of Garbage Pail Kids. Like as a cheesy card game, like off on the fringes of existence, it's fantastic. You know, he makes a lot of good movies. You know, he's out there on the fringe. Even Suicide Squad, I'd say that's a fringe movie. But then to turn around and try to bank a whole franchise on him with a Garbage Pail Kids movie,
Yeah, he's
oh,
not
no.
the
No,
he's not the right
no.
guy.
People don't want too much of that other thing.
You're telling me a trauma graduate shouldn't be in charge of your freaking multi-billion-dollar IP?
I just think he's well suited for those kind of just like French movies. You know, the ones that are just kind of loosely connected to everything else. It's not he doesn't have a good fit for just the main storyline because that's why people aren't watching the Marvel
thing is,
movies
though,
anymore. It's because they're all following his beats.
See, we are talking about James Gunn, right? I wasn't paying attention.
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure. He made that first Scooby-Doo movie back in the day, the live-action one that had Sarah Michelle Gellar and Freddie Prinze Jr. and Matthew Lillard and Linda Cardellini. Those were pretty good, and they
he's a
felt
good director.
like
It's
Scooby-Doo
just-
stuff. So the problem is if you give him too much freedom, he turns
That's
back
my
into
thing.
making like a trauma, like just cringe fest.
I mean, I I liked Peacemaker. I think it was good, but like you're saying, it was not. It's just a weird fringe thing, not really connected to anything. It was kind of cool,
Yeah.
but you want to put that in your universe with your mainline superheroes, and you've got little kids and stuff wanting to watch it.
That's
It's not for children at all, and it just I don't really gel
that's
with
the
that.
problem. Is like you go back to when we were young, and those superhero movies were made to have a bunch of licensing and tie-ins and all this stuff. And the Marvel machine definitely did that, but it also made the movies really tame and similar. And Christopher Nolan, he didn't really do that. They did make some toys, but eventually they were like, we can't market this to children, and so they wanted to do something different. But then they hired Zack Snyder to do it. And it's like, well,
You know what really got him in trouble back in the day was Batman Returns. That movie I still think it's the darkest Batman movie ever made.
That's my favorite one, honestly.
And it had the full McDonald's marketing. I had some toys from the Happy Meal and everything. So many people took their kids to see those movies, and it was so. I mean, like not child friendly.
But we watched it though, and I like it just seemed dark. But I don't. See,
As a kid, when I watched it, I wasn't disturbed. I just got
No.
bored because it was just a really long,
just seemed,
kind of boring
it
movie.
seemed like it had dark tones and there was some weird stuff in it, but it I don't know.
You need to watch it now. It's pretty dang dark, man.
I just remember the one time I tried to watch it when I was younger is like the part where then he like bites. I don't know.
Yeah, penguin bites the guy's nose off.
I don't think that was the part that got me. There was one part that got me. And I was like, ooh, that's a little creepy.
Yeah, but that was the thing. Like I wasn't.
I really couldn't stand.
You were creeped out by him, but is there any like in it? And I liked most of the Marvel movies up until Endgame, and then I thought Endgame
Wasn't the Batman's Return
But-
game like one of the best Batman games of the time too?
But the is there a villain in any of the Marvel movies that was creepy, scary, eerie? No, they're all jokes. They're all jokes.
Everything in the
Yeah.
Marvel movies is
And,
jokes.
like,
man.
I will
like
say,
a lot of those movies, but there's nothing. There's no villain that even Thanos. When he
Well,
comes
that
in
guy,
in
that one
Infinity War,
guy
jokes
that
about
was
it.
the villain of the Guardians movie. I thought they made him pretty creepy. Like he had that big
But
hammer
they
and he
make
was
him a
like
joke.
bashing dudes' heads and stuff.
Correct. Yeah, but then they just make a joke at the end, like the whole climax of the movie is a
Yeah.
dance-off joke.
Yeah, I
So-
agree with you there. I was just saying that's the only
the only
character
thing,
that
yeah,
I
the
felt
only one
like
where you
was
could
actually
sort of
kind
say
of
it.
creepy.
The only one we could sort of say it. Yeah. Well, and then I guess I didn't see it, but supposedly the Christian Bale villain in the latest Thor movie was supposedly pretty creepy. But
Oh, yes, he was supposed to be super creepy and awesome, and they pretty much cut most of his screen time out of the movie just so they could put more stupid jokes in it.
And I said when people liked Ragnarok so much, and I said, "No, this is the end of Marvel because you have a fantasy character, and instead of making a fantasy film where he goes on some epic adventure in Asgard, and it's like, just
I don't
cool
understand
monsters,
how you
magic,
make.
all this stuff. You make Guardians of the Galaxy with Thor. It's like,
Yeah.
I just don't get how you can turn a genocide into a comedy. That one still just doesn't really sit that right. Like with Asgard Fallen and everything.
I mean, it did it in the producers, so it's
Well, they did, but it seems so damn out of place to take such a serious subject matter within the comics universe and then basically just turn it into one big joke.
Yeah. Well, that one thing that kills me about Thor never learns. They give you this whole story arc where the first movie, Thor has to learn, that he needs to be more responsible. Second movie, throw all that out the window. He's stupid again. Goes through this whole big, terrible thing. Oh, he finally at the end of the movie learns and he's got to be, a good hero. Third movie, throw all that out the window. Same
He's
thing.
fat now.
yeah.
Same. I mean, it's just stupid. He doesn't learn his lesson. He starts off, he's arrogant.
Endgame was so bad. Endgame was so bad. I don't want to get. This is such a stupid conversation that I hate having, but like, because like, who cares about Marvel? It's over. Like, can we just move on? But still, Endgame was so awful. It was so bad.
You thought it was bad. Wait till Phase 4, Captain America.
I'm just glad
Like-
they marketed Dark World correctly, because that was like the darkest movie I have ever seen in my entire life, because I couldn't tell what the hell was happening half the time.
What movie?
Dark World.
The second
Thor.
Thor.
Oh, you need to go back.
Cinematography.
When I saw that Eric Bana Hulk movie back in the day, my brother and I saw it in the theater, and we literally could not see what was happening on the screen. The fight in that one at the end is so dark, especially when it was in the theater.
There was
I
a
literally
while
could
where
not, I did
everything
not know
was
what was
like
going
that.
on. There was no, you could not see any images. It was just like shapes moving. Like what?
Yeah, that, and then remember when the giant mutated dogs come after?
Yeah.
Couldn't see that either.
I loved how on like old school monitors you could just like amp up the brightness, because that's how I combated all of that. Is just watched everything on my
That's-
computer.
That's also why I don't like the first Rescuers movie, is because it's so damn dark. Not in tone, just everything about that movie is just dark. It's
I
like
just
they
remember
tinted every
it's trying-
frame.
trying to watch that when it came on TV when I was a kid. It was boring.
Oh, it's so boring. I haven't watched it since I was like 7 years old. And
Because I
even
remember
then-
like the commercials for the second one when I was in kindergarten. It looked so bright and fun. And then I
The
saw
second
like
one is fire, dude.
it's so good, so epic,
Yeah.
and
It's just that first one,
anything
man.
with George C. Scott, and he's such a good actor, and like his voice is just so perfect for a villain.
I don't think I ever actually saw it. I didn't see a lot of Disney movies growing up because
you need to watch The Rescuers Down Under, man.
It's
Like,
great.
I thought that Disney was for girls, so I didn't watch very
It's
much
got
Disney
John
until
Candy
this
in it
was-
too, right?
Yeah, John Candy plays whatever their transportation
The
is. The first
sequel
one's
or
Dom
whatever.
DeLuise, and this it's like his cousin. It's played by John Candy. It's like a
Got Bob Newhart in it.
Does have Bob Newhart and Eva Gabor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bob
And George T.
Newhart.
Scott, and he
is the
says,
best.
"Rommel, you magnificent bastard! I read your book." No, that's
Oh,
Patton.
did he?
That's Patton. That's in Patton. Sorry, I get him confused. That's my favorite line of any movie ever. The only movie line I quote more than that is from Blue Velvet, and I don't quote the whole line because it's got a profanity in it. But it's a Heineken, that Pabst Blue Ribbon. I say that every time someone says Heineken or I see the word Heineken. Otherwise, I'll just like go up to somebody randomly and I'll say, "Rommel, you magnificent bastard! I read your book." And they don't know what I'm talking about at all, and I just laugh. I'm smarter than you. I know more things about pop culture. I've seen movies.
I know most pop culture references because every cartoon I watched growing up with, like 90% of the episodes are just parodies, and jokes are just parodies of older movies. So that's how I know the references. I don't know the actual references.
Well, see, when I grew up, like, I watched all these movies on, the Saturday afternoon matinee. They'd show old movies, and so like I saw these movies on television,
Yeah.
and I don't know, nowadays kids don't watch. They're not forced to watch things that they wouldn't otherwise watch. Like you just go
Yeah.
on Netflix or whatever, and you scroll through until you see the same old thing, and you're not like,
You
well,
can't
I guess I gotta
discover
watch this
something you weren't
weird movie,
expecting.
Like
Because we didn't have cable till I was in high school, so it was just whatever came on the UHF stations. So you watched all kinds of old
People's
stuff.
Court.
I had cable for like 3 months while I was in the Navy. Like for some reason, cable was in my room, even though I wasn't paying for it, and so that's the only time I ever had cable in my entire life. Yeah.
At my house, mostly you just watched whatever Dad watched. You didn't get to go, I want to watch cartoons. You just watched Jeopardy and Andy Griffith, and you kept your mouth shut.
My dad didn't watch much TV, so we got to dictate it. Fortunately,
And we only had like a couple channels, and
Yeah.
when Dad would get home from work, he just watched the TV. If we wanted to go play video games, we had a Nintendo that was hooked up to another TV, but like it didn't. You couldn't pick up any channels on it.
so
Yeah.
Tucson, skinny nose, but in Tucson, where I grew up, there's a giant mountain. Like it's huge. It's from the base to the peak is huge change in elevation. It's massive. You go from like the not low desert, but like mid-level desert to pine forest and snow during the winter. It's ridiculous. But that means that the like if the broadcast is coming from a certain area of Tucson, you're not going to get it depending on where you live. So if they have a repeater on the mountain, then you will. But I didn't like even we'd have to like really try to get NBC to come in, We'd like, oh, we got to move the rabbit ears and we do this, and then ABC. It's like, well, now we got to go move it to watch ABC. So, most of the time we were watching whatever was on CBS, Fox, or UPN and PBS, and then WB came much later. But it was, a lot of the shows, if they were on ABC or NBC, it's like maybe I watched it, but then depending on the time of year, it wasn't coming in very well.
And we had an antenna on the roof, so we got the major channels pretty well. And then there were like the fuzzy channels, like the Spanish stations and some of the other ones.
The Spanish channels were crystal clear, so that's why I watched Dragon Ball Z was on the Spanish channel.
Oh yeah.
So when I watched Dragon Ball Z as a kid, it was in Spanish.
That's
Unfortunately, my mom's fluent, so like what I didn't know, I said, Mom, what did they say? Blah blah blah. I was like, I don't know what that was. What's the context? I don't understand.
But I had in my room. I had a little 13-inch TV just to play video games, and it had bunny ears on it. But whenever we try to use them, they were just worthless compared to that one on the roof.
I was thinking about nowadays, because the signal is digital, the old televisions, like an old television can't receive it without a digital receiver box now.
Yeah, you
So,
have to use
like, the little black and white TV we used to take on road trips and plug into the cigarette lighter area, like that won't work. You can't use it now because it can't it can't receive the digital signals, so it's worthless.
See,
Not
and
that
it's
anybody
funny
cares.
that you just dated yourself by calling it a cigarette lighter.
The cigarette lighter goes in there.
That's what people call
They
it.
don't ever sell the actual lighters anymore. You have to buy that extra.
I remember when you pull that down and there was an ashtray and everything.
Exactly, the ashtrays in the doors and in the back seats of the car. And then, I'd always put my trash in there because my parents didn't smoke, so I'd just stick trash in there, and then eventually it'd get full and I'd have to empty it.
Yeah, it's crazy.
There's so much stuff like I don't know. I'm sure it's like that where you guys live, but here you're not allowed to smoke in restaurants anymore, and it's such a foreign concept now to go like. How long has it been since you had to go in a restaurant and they'd say smoking or non-smoking?
Yeah,
it's like there used to be ashtrays on the tables. And
you remember going to McDonald's and they had the little McDonald's ashtrays?
Now
there's only one restaurant that I know of that you can still smoke in.
I think here, if it's a bar, you can smoke in it. So, I mean,
Yeah.
some restaurants or bars, so they still got smoking sections, I think.
I don't know as I've ever been in just a bar in Arizona. I have in other states, but like I don't think not for recreational purposes at least. So I don't know if they smoke in them, but I doubt they do. Here, like there's smoke lounges for cigars and stuff, and you can smoke in those.
We back when I used to play music all the time, most of the shows we booked, we tried to do all ages shows, so we didn't play in bars or anything. And one time, these guys we knew, we traded shows with them. Like, we left them on one of our shows, and then they was going with us on one of theirs. we drive up to Murfreesboro to play the show with them, and it is in the crappiest hole in the wall bar I've ever been in my life. And here we are, we're like playing like punk rock, not straight up punk rock, but pretty, pretty punky kind of stuff to a bunch of old guys who probably wanted to hear George Jones and Merle Haggard. And
What
it was,
about
it was
David
the,
Allen Coe?
yeah, they probably would have loved that. They would have loved that.
You know, they say he looks a lot like Merle Haggard and sounds like David Allen Coe.
What's sad is I actually know some lyrics, and when you say that, they come to mind. And I'm
Because it's literally from his song. Like, they say I look like Merle Haggard.
I know, but I know he wrote some really awful stuff.
Oh, there they are. See, I didn't grow up listening to country, and then I joined the military, and some of the people I knew when I was at Camp Pendleton, other corpsmen, they were like big into country, and they were playing David Allen Coe, and I was like,
See, my parents didn't listen to country; they listened to rock music. And I remember being a kid and Mom and Dad having the Black Album by Metallica on cassette.
so my dad had like Petra and
The Jesus Metallica.
Hell
with the devil.
yeah. Oh, Petra's awesome.
Stropper.
Yeah.
You're thinking about there. Paradox.
I have heard Petra though.
Petra is like a Judas Kiss. Like it's a good
What's
song.
funny is on my way to work, I got in a mood yesterday to listen to some DC talk, and so on my way to work, I hit random on my Amazon, and it was playing a Petra song on my way to work.
I found we unpacked the boxes to a new house, and I finally unpacked the cassette player, and I had the cassettes, and so I got out a DC Talk cassette and put it in.
Dude, I had all their albums on CD, even the first ones that are kind of bad.
Like Vic Mignogna is the voice actor.
Yeah,
He produced some of the early stuff.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, they all went to Liberty University together, and
Yeah, like the first couple albums are kind of rough.
yeah.
I can't remember the name of the first one. What was the second one? New Thing. You heard that one?
Yeah, dude. Oh man.
Now,
That-
Free at Last was really good, but that wasn't really the kind of music I was into. I got into DC Talk listening to the Jesus Freak album and went
Yeah, same.
backwards.
Same.
So it was really
Well,
weird
I
going
feel
back.
like we were a little bit young for like the real early stuff, and then that was kind of the first one that came out when we were listening.
Yeah.
To music. Well, did you like the Newsboys? Do you remember the Newsboys?
Yeah, I actually was listening to this
They're
boy
so
yesterday
good.
too.
Oh, Breakfast and
Dude, I was listening to that
such a
album
good
yesterday.
song. Or
To me,
oh,
that is
like
my favorite
Shine.
album by them. Take Me to Your Later.
They're so good.
Yeah,
Like they're,
that's a good
they're-
album. I mean, Christian music or not, just musically, that is a really good album.
Oh, they were like, I trying to be as objective as possible. They were a legitimately good band. Like
Yeah,
their music was legitimately good.
I actually have the DC Talk video collection that has "Welcome to the Freak Show," the whole concert. I used to
Man.
watch that all the time, man.
Music. There used to be such a variety, and there used to be so much exposure with videos and CDs coming out all the time, new records and things. And now, like, there's nothing that I ever want to listen to. Like, if I hear something new, it's always awful. And like, I don't, but I go back in history and like, there's songs I like from like every decade of the 20th century. And then you get into the 21st century. It's like, okay, well now we're just done. Like, we're just done making good music or what?
It's
I don't
all
know.
went underground, I find.
Well, it's still, if there's a band I like that I hear now, the reason I like them is because they're emulating something else.
Right.
Like most of the metal bands I like now are either thrash metal that's emulating stuff that happened in the 80s or bands trying to be Black Sabbath. And it's like, That's
It's like you look at the history of rock, and you have like early stuff. Buddy Holly, Elvis, the black artists that they were taking inspiration from, and then you moved and you have the Beatles and the Beach Boys and stuff, and like they took the sound and they started to make it their own, and they adapted to the times, and then you had like 70s rock, and there's a whole swath, like wide river of 70s rock, anything from Creedence to the Byrds to more soft stuff, like it's just there's all kinds of different stuff, and then the 80s, bunch of different genres, 90s same. And
but
then
the
new metal comes
80s.
along and everything's done like after that, where it goes pop and that's it. Like
I
just
think the
pop.
80s is where the music industry really took a dive, because that's when you started having all these one-hit wonders, because a label would come in and snatch somebody up. They let them put out a couple singles, and if they didn't have any, if they only had one single hit it big, they just dropped them and moved on.
Well, they also had a bad habit of ruining the good artists who were putting stuff out. Like, remember John Fogerty even ended up like leaving CCR because like they were under so much pressure from the studio and everything to write music, and they would complain about the poor conditions and stuff, and they're like, well, you can't write good songs if you're
in the
well.
90s. John Fogerty got sued for sounding too much like CCR.
Yeah, that too. They tried to
John
argue that he
Fogerty.
plagiarized himself, but luckily that lawsuit ended in his favor.
The craziness of that. Who's crazy, and I think was just the longevity of is kind of impressive, is Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. They start the 70s and they go through the 80s and they have hits all the way into the 90s. It's kind of impressive considering
he even had hits beyond the 90s, man. He was still putting out music until the day he died. He had just released a new album just a few months prior before he passed. Like his songs were still lit too. Like I was checking out he's got like an album called, I think it's like Hypnotic Eye. It's fantastic.
Yeah, and it's a good album. But I remember when the labels were giving him crap and saying he was too old and they didn't want to play his music. Remember The Last DJ? He came out with that album.
Yeah.
He had the song The Last DJ, talking about how they wouldn't play his music on the radio anymore.
And there's like the Traveler's Handbook or something like that.
Yeah, dude.
The thing that's crazy now is, you don't even have to go back that far. And there was like a bunch of different kinds of pop music. Like there was soft rock, sort of singer-songwriter stuff. There was piano ballad type stuff, and then there was like bands like I don't even know, The Fray and Snow Patrol and stuff. But now, like there's nobody singing songs on the radio. It's all like hip hop dance music.
See, well, that's the problem. Is like mainstream has been so commercialized that it doesn't reflect the artwork that's actually being produced. Honestly, like even to right now, there's a lot of good music being put out. It's just none of these people are mainstream artists. A lot of these people are just guys with their own YouTube channels, starting their own labels and stuff like that. Like, there's one artist that I've actually followed, and he's hip hop if you're into that thing. He's got some good stuff though, but his name's Echo, Ekoh, and he's been putting out some actually really solid sounding stuff. I don't know.
There's this guy you might have heard of, Doug Garrett, and he puts out a lot of music.
I have a bunch of his albums.
I feel like the reason why people think that there's so much music these days is because they're looking at an industry that is right now on life support.
Yeah.
Instead of actually looking at what's
here's the
being
thing,
created
it's
by
actually
creators.
I think that it's possibly a bad thing that there's no shared musical culture, because you go back thousands of years and generations of people were singing and enjoying the same songs. And there was
I see people like sharing Spotify playlists and sharing music that they found off of YouTube together and stuff like that. The only difference is now it's not on the radio and surrounded by commercials.
See, but that's a good point. Is like, going back, let's say the 1800s, somebody would pull out a violin, a fiddle, and somebody, maybe have an accordion or something, and they'd start playing music, and everyone would sing together. Or on Sunday they'd open up the hymnal and they'd
But
sing
like,
the words, and they all knew how to sing, and they were participating in the music. That was the shared nature
and
of it.
we still
Now
have
nobody
that
knows how to
too.
sing.
Like,
Nobody knows how to play instruments.
have you
It's-
seen like videos of people busking and stuff like that? Like, there's plenty of that going on too.
Yeah, but,
I
but
think you're kind
fewer
of
and
missing
fewer
what he's
people.
getting at, Skinny.
Huh?
I'm not saying there's not people making it. I'm saying that
Yeah.
the broader culture, like normies aren't doing that. No, like but the broader
I
culture.
think they are though. That's what I'm because normies aren't listening to. Nobody's listening to the radio, man. Everybody's got like
That's my point.
Spotify or
Like,
something
that's my point.
else.
It's becoming divergent. Like every normie listened to the Carpenters in the 70s or the Bee Gees, right? And so they had a shared musical culture. Now, whether that was a good thing for like the commercialization of art and things is another story.
Yeah.
But everybody had that shared cultural experience. Now there's not the shared cultures. We like the music that we listened to in the 90s and the early 2000s. We can just reference them. Like Doug and I just went through a bunch of Christian bands and Christian music that possibly nobody else knows, but we had a shared cultural interest in. But now, if it's so, the fact that there's no centralized community putting out that type of music, and
Well,
there's so much of it, creates it where it's like, how can you have references with people when you meet them? Like, hey, like Doug and I lived in 2 different states, halfway, across the country, but we have
There's
this shared
TikTok
musical
music.
culture. I've
TikTok
never
is the devil.
done it.
Yeah,
I'm just
but
old, I
a
guess.
lot of people use it, and
That's what I mean.
I
They're just
know that
there's other ways that they're doing it now. It's
that-
just not the radio anymore.
But it's
Like,
not.
I'll go to my
It's
friends
still
with a
trending
song
videos
that I
and
heard on
stuff
TikTok.
like that.
Yeah,
you
but see,
know,
like back in
so-
the 70s, my mom didn't listen to country music. But if you turn something on that is country music in the 70s, she knows what it is.
Same with my
Every-
parents. And they didn't listen
Everybody
to
just
music
kind
either.
of everybody just kind of knew all this stuff or was connected by what he's saying. You might pull up some music and I've never heard of it before and never listened to anything like it. When I used to work at Walmart, which has been 10 years ago, like I couldn't relate to anybody there other than I listened to classic rock because all the music I'd ever listened to or was a fan of, nobody ever heard of it.
What I'm saying
And
is, like
it seems like most of us are connected by these crappy Marvel movies.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly that. There's the only thing that the culture has almost universally shared in the last 15 years is that and the first season of Stranger Things.
Yeah.
Whereas like remember when we were kids, if somebody didn't know who Michael Jordan was, you'd be like, "What? Like, are you from another planet?"
Yeah.
But now, like, I can't even name players on my the teams that are in my state. And that just I've moved away from sports, and probably there's a lot of people that can, but everybody had seen Back to the Future. Like when I met my wife and she hadn't seen Back to the Future, it was odd. It was like out of the ordinary because everybody I ever knew had seen Back to the Future. But now, like, and there's so much choice and there's so many different avenues that people take. It's like, will that cause society to divide more? Like, I don't know.
Well, I get what you're
It's never
saying.
happened before in the history of mankind.
There's more groups. It's more spread out. Used to like you're saying, like I might not have been a basketball fan, but I knew who Michael Jordan was.
And Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, Dennis
But
Rodman.
everything's so split up now, like, and which is weird is like you can get into anything. All the information is there. Everything's there. But you might not ever hear about it because you're not into it. You can just go into this own little world. And sometimes we're so disconnected from other people who aren't into the things that we're into.
It's like we look at this to kind of something that we're involved in with comics. Like in the 80s, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles could become a huge hit because all the people who were buying comics were going to the comic book store. But now nobody's going to the comic book store, and their experience on the internet of how they obtain comic books and they find out about comics is determined by an algorithm that feeds them the kind of stuff that the algorithm that they've told the algorithm they like. So if I go on Indiegogo and I don't see the comic, or I go on Twitter and it doesn't tell me about the comic, then I'm never going to find it out. And so then you have to then go outside of it, of the comic book space to build an audience, or you're not going to get big. And so, like, I'm not saying choice is a bad thing. I'm just saying going into the future, it'll, like, my children will have such a vastly different experience than the other people of their age, because their experience is far more curated than ours was.
Yeah,
It
because
was possible for me to know what South Park was and to know the cultural reference of South Park in 1997 without ever having watched the show.
yeah,
Now, if you don't have HBO Max, you don't know whatever, Velma or whatever show they're putting out. And there's a million other shows that people are like, oh, I was really into that show. Like, I have no idea. What is that on? Oh, it was on this streaming service. And, when I was a kid, I could go to a friend's house and watch cable. So I've seen Space Ghost Coast to Coast. I've seen Dexter's Laboratory. I've seen Cow and Chicken. I've seen all these other shows because there was far less information to consume. And
yeah.
I could do it in piecemeal. And I have those cultural references. I'm not saying it's a bad thing or a good thing necessarily.
Yeah.
I'm just saying I don't know what will the country become divided along these identity lines that are being curated and fed by algorithms, by computers telling you, hey, no, this is the stuff you like. What you like is Otis Stein. What you like is Tim Lim comics. And so then I don't ever see anything outside of those things.
Yeah, it's like the more I've noticed, the more that I argue on Twitter, the less I see things I like, and I just see things that make me mad.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I could see the points you're making. I've always been like going against the grain anyway.
Well,
I'm always trying to venture into new places.
What you're saying is not wrong, Skinny, but like what he was saying too, there's people out there doing it, but won't ever see it because just the way it is. And that's so weird.
And one of the things, like, I never went to a comic book shop until I was an adult.
But at the same time, is it sad because there's not so little that we all have to share the same thing, or is it more of a happy thing that there's so much content out there that it's hard to have like that kind of connection anymore? I don't know. It's a weird thing to wonder about, though. Like,
just everything has been leaned into niche content because you couldn't do that before. It all had to come through one central pipeline.
Well, just think about it.
But now it's like anybody can go, find the most obscure thing they want that 5 people are interested in, and
that kind of
so everybody is off of their own little, thing, and don't have to go to the one mainstream pipeline thing that is there.
Well, I think it just shows you how much that the mainstream has lost the plot musically and artistically and everything, because nobody wants to watch what they have. Like, when I was a kid, think about it, like, I could have been like, hey, did you see the Transformers or G.I. Joe? Almost every boy would be like, oh, I love that. Now I'd be like, hey, did you watch, like, just like Five Fox was saying, but there's lots of good stuff. See, like you were saying, Skin, there's lots of really good stuff. People still creating good stuff, but it's just, I don't know. It's so divisive.
And then the more freedom people have to make, and the more content is made by independent artists, the less impactful content Hollywood actually makes. Like, when was the last not an adaptation of a comic book or a previous IP? There's only one new IP that's come out since 2011 that started a franchise. There's only one. And before that, you have to kind of go back to 1999 with The Matrix. And I talked about this on this. I did a stream a couple weeks ago, and I brought up this point. And it's basically, I think that's when I did it, but it's basically just John Wick. It's the only one.
And part of that goes to the whole, everything is niche oriented now, is for an independent person creating a comic or any number of things, a YouTube channel. You don't need to make spend a lot of money, and you don't need to get a huge audience to be successful as a one person or a 2 or 3 person team. Whereas anything in Hollywood has to make obscene amounts of money to be profitable.
Yeah.
And if more people are moving to all this small independent stuff, then Hollywood has to focus on big, stupid stuff that they have some kind of track record to think that they can make a lot of money on, which means going back to the well and just doing the same old things over and over, copying the same old things, saying, hey, the franchise name is what's going to sell this, not,
Like they're making
anything else.
Trash Man's talking about Warhammer, and they're going to be making Amazon's going to make a Warhammer show. And it's like more people than ever will have heard of Warhammer, but how many people are going to go to the hobby shop and buy Warhammer minis to build and paint? Hardly any.
Yeah.
Whereas if you go back, how many people saw RoboCop on television with an edited version and were like, man, I love RoboCop, and they went and they saw it. They got the, when the next movie came out and it was PG-13, they asked their parents to go, and they suddenly they went and saw the PG-13 RoboCop, and they got a toy, and they got, and it's like, is that a good thing? I'm not saying it is, but there was far more incentive for people to put money into new things because, well, it could create a franchise.
Well, something I was thinking about when Hiroshi Paradox was talking about people not needing a lot of money to create something, it kind of goes back to music. There's a lot more music out there now because you can just record fantastic quality music in your home. And back in the day, that kind of weeded out a lot of the bad music or uninteresting music because no label wanted to pay for a band to go into a studio and just make awful music. Or if the members of the band actually, got together and spent the money, doesn't mean anybody would buy it. It's kind of weird because I was at that point when we started playing back in the day that stuff wasn't like it is right now. And we had to go and we spent like probably $2,000 on a 4-song CD that was like maybe 15 minutes long, if that.
That is a short CD. I got one of them.
No, you don't have that one.
Is it not that one?
No, this one's Disoriented Superheroes from back in.
Because I was going to say your Before the Crows CD is
It's
really
also
short too.
So Before the Crows, we just went to the studio just because that dude was a really good producer. But like, I don't know, it's so weird. It cost a ton of money, and it did weed out a lot of people. I think maybe like these hobbies and stuff are like that now too. It's got more mainstream, and it's kind of.
There are more fantasy books being put out like now than ever before, right? More people are writing elves and dwarves and all this stuff. But I went to Barnes and Noble today, and there's 2 bookshelves of fantasy books. They don't even have, like, there's people that have these huge long series, and there's hardly any other books. They have like their latest book, and that's it, no backlog. And that is a huge difference because I could go on Amazon and try to sift through all of this content and try to find the good ones or go get recommendations, but I can't just go and pick something up from the store.
Well, it's because the internet and online selling lets them take away a lot of the overhead costs, the rent and the space that a physical store needs. So Amazon or the online versions of Barnes and Noble, it's all going to be in the same warehouse, and they're not having to pick and choose what is in the store. Because they only want the stuff in the store that's going to sell and make money, and because that space in the store costs a lot more than the space in the warehouse.
It's all knickknacks and toys now, basically. At Bunn's.
Funko Pops.
My point is that it's like there's a lot more content, but it's harder to find that good content. It's like Skinny
Yeah.
might go and be able to find all this good music, but somebody else isn't able to find it unless Skinny tells them, "Hey, check out this person." And
Yeah.
back in the day, like there was less content, but is it a bad thing? Were there gatekeepers? Absolutely, but there's gatekeepers now, which is determined on an algorithm.
Yeah,
Whatever my interests are, curate my experience online, and I'm never going to see these people because there's not a shared culture, and I'm being shifted towards.
Yeah, but at least now they can actually make the stuff that they couldn't have made 20 years ago and find
That's the
those
trade-off.
five people who are interested as opposed to zero.
The trade-off is that there's never going to be a Kevin Eastman and a Peter Laird ever again. There's never going to be a Stephen King ever again. There's never going to be a J.K. Rowling or a John Grisham or Tom Clancy ever again. There'll be somebody who's very successful in making a pretty decent living, but none of those cultural defining people who sold millions of copies, and everybody knows those names I just said. You've heard, even if you haven't read one of their books.
Yeah, but at the same time, like I see that as a good thing. Though.
Yeah, it's like I don't think that's necessarily bad.
Because now you have like everyday artists who actually have a shot. Like if they actually do put in all the work, they could actually, at the very least, make a good living. Granted, they're not going to live like a rock star like Peter Laird and them and buying tanks and all that crazy stuff that they were.
I mean, that's the good side of it is that you had to be a super celebrity to find any kind of success, and now you don't have to make a bajillion dollars to
but see,
to make a living as a creative person. You can sell to 500 or 5,000, 10,000 people and make a living and be a creator and do that.
I think there's far less people making a living doing comics today than there was.
Oh yeah, that's not so much just because of all this. That's because the interest in comics.
I think there needs to be
a different thing.
I don't think that's not what I don't.
Sorry.
What I'm trying to say is, just because there's more doesn't mean it's good. A lot of it was weeded out, like I'm saying, because of cost or something. Maybe it just wasn't worth it to do this stuff. Now it doesn't matter if it's worth it or not. I can write a book and put it on Amazon, and maybe somebody will print it out, and it'll be the worst garbage you've ever seen. And it's out there. But used to, you'd have to submit it to a publisher, and all this stuff. And in a way, it's cool that you can do that, but it kind of makes looking for something good harder.
Mm-hmm.
There's more mediocre content to sift through to find something. I feel like. I'm looking for music. I can listen to hours and hours worth of music and of new music and not hardly find anything I want to listen to.
I don't think it's like 100% one thing is good and one thing is bad. I mean, I think it's, there are positives and negatives to
absolutely. And that's absolutely my point. The question is, this is, we have a huge country here, and it's ridiculous nation, right? Nations were much smaller ethnic, along ethnic lines back in the day, but those people had generally a shared culture. And now you have all these people interacting that will have very different cultures. And it's like, I'm just asking the question, not like what will be the outcome. It is possible it's nothing, like that it doesn't matter, that people don't know the same songs. They can't sing the same songs with each other. They can't get together and like everyone join in because everybody knows, the devil went down to Georgia. So when you go to the country bar and, on St. Patrick's Day and someone's playing like a Dropkicks Murphys song, like, oh, I know that song, Shipping Up to Boston. Yeah, I've heard that. And so you kind of sing along with it. But you go back 30 years and everybody knew every song. You go back 60 years and definitely everybody knew every song. And it's like there's a cultural participation that possibly will not be it will not be possible in the future.
I mean,
I think it's more just the internet in general.
But are parents
Now that
not
I'm thinking
sharing
about it.
music with their kids though? Like,
Dude,
Sure
kids
they
aren't
did.
listening to anything their parents now.
I don't
Well,
know.
like-
All the music I listen to.
No,
my
it's
dad
different.
and I bonded
different.
over
You're not the
music.
same as this generation.
Yeah, you see,
Yeah.
we are now multiple generations away from the people who are consuming the mainstream of music or that are going to be targeted going forward. We're getting
But,
to the top. We're getting to the end of the target demographic.
I mean, as somebody who I was never into anything anybody else was in. I never, when I was a kid, I don't really have a taste in music because I never really got into music. It was just
That's weird to me.
my parents listened to stuff in the car, so that's what I listened to. I never really liked it. I never figured out what I liked. So everybody else, music is so important, and it's just nothing to me. I'm like, oh, this is another thing that I don't have in common with anybody. So if there's, if we're weakening this idea that we all share the same culture in terms of entertainment and media and stuff, it doesn't really seem as big a deal to me because I was never into the stuff that everybody else was into anyway, largely. I mean, obviously some things, but so, opening up things to where everybody can find their own little niche to hang out in, that kind of was cool to me because, like, hey, I can find the other 10 people in the country who are into the same thing I'm into and don't have to talk about stuff nobody cares about and have them get angry at me in real life. But then that's kind of turned into weird stuff on the internet too, where it's kind of backfired. I can't really
I
define
think it's
how.
hurt people socially, honestly,
Yeah.
because instead of going out and finding people and things locally to do, and I'm the same way. Like even the
I mean,
music,
even now, as big as some of the stuff I'm into, the nerdy stuff I'm into has grown to be bigger. I've never met anybody in person in this pretty large city who's into the same stuff I'm into.
yeah.
What, like manga and anime type stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I know it's popular, but I don't ever find anybody in real life who's into stuff.
You should just
Granted,
hope-
I was
granted,
the-
I live
I-
in one of the biggest cities in the country.
Yeah, I mean, I live in, like,
work
the
at one of the
seventh-
biggest universities in the country, so I see it literally every day. But that's
I mean, I see it in terms of like
I don't
it's selling in the stores, but I've never connected. I mean, I was the only kid in school who was into this stuff. Everybody else like, oh, you're watching baby cartoons. You need to grow up and watch football.
I guess I just grew up in larger areas. Or
I
something.
mean, I live in like the 7th biggest or 12th biggest city in America. I mean, I know there's people out there. It's just
like when I was in
Yeah.
high school, I was interested in getting to know a lot of different people, and so I'd go around and I kind of was like a chameleon that could like interject himself into like these different groups. And so I'd go over and I'd watch the kids play Magic the Gathering. I didn't have the Magic the Gathering cards, didn't have any money to buy them, but I'd go and watch them and, oh, explain this card to me. Oh, this is Platinum Angel and it does this and blah, blah. And I'd get to know it. And the same with the people that watched anime. They'd be like, oh, I watched this show. And so, well, what's it called? Inuyasha. And you're like, what's it about? And they'd tell me about it and stuff. And so that was my experience. Like I saw a lot of different people. It's just completely anecdotal on my part.
I went to a small private school my whole life.
So there we go.
I had a graduating class of 44 kids.
Yeah,
so,
there you
know,
go.
I was the one
graduating
kid who
class
was
of
into
1,000.
stuff. It's like 95% of the guys were on the football team, and that I didn't want to be on the football team made me
Well,
weird. So
that's a totally different experience to me than like a graduating class of 1,000 in big high school, you know.
I went to a small redneck school. Everybody was rednecks and tried to fight me all the time because I wasn't a redneck.
So I went to a public school in a very nice area of Tucson, one of the most well-to-do areas of Tucson, and we had people, but then we had people that were also like lived in a poor area of Tucson that also went to that school. It was kind of a weird mix, so I probably got a lot different experience than.
We had 4 groups in my high school. You had jocks, rednecks, the jocks and preps were kind of the same. So jocks, preps, rednecks, stoners, everybody else.
Yeah, see,
And I was in the everybody else group.
I think my high school experience and where I went to high school was just atypical because like our salutatorian of our high school was also a starter on the football team. And, like there wasn't really, those groups weren't really built around those lines. They were just like groups of friends who had been friends since 5th grade. And like I went to private Christian school, and then I went for like a few years in elementary school to public school. And when I went back to public school in high school, the same people who had been friends in 5th grade were basically still friends in high school. So it was like, I guess it was just different. I don't know.
I think it's just moved, and we just have a trouble understanding it because everything's kind of moving online anyways, where like everybody's exposed to everybody like globally, like at an instant. And so I still think there's going to be a lot of shared stuff culturally going forward.
It may be.
I think we saw our events already, and now we're just old people.
So like, will it be that for people who have never met each other in real life, even though 2 of them at least lived within 100 miles of each other for a long period of time, but never met each other in real life, have more in common than people who we actually see on a day-to-day basis? It's like, will those people will I have a shared cultural experience as those people, or will I have to just seek out people via the internet to find people who share the same experiences as me or into the same things?
I think
that's
you'll
how I
find
define it.
people naturally, and that's what I've seen. At least like my nephews and them have been doing. They still like go to school. They still, they all end up watching about the same things. Anyways, they're all watching like freaking Jacksepticeye and PewDiePie and stuff like that. And yeah, it's a lot different than the content that we're watching, but I still feel like that there are cultural things taking place. It's just not the kind of stuff that we're necessarily used to or familiar with. It's just
it could be that
foreign.
it's very different. Like, if everybody's
it's
watching
weird.
Mr. Beast videos, it's like, oh, do you remember when Mr. Beast did this or that? And they're like, oh yeah, I remember that was crazy.
And honestly, I have no idea about most of that stuff, but my
Yeah.
nephews do. Like, they're like, and there's a ton of more people just like them out there too. And I don't know. I think people naturally tend to like herd up anyways, as far as trends go. So it's like I said, it's not going to be in the same manner that we're familiar with, like everybody listening to the same pop songs on the radio and learning the lyrics to all the songs. But I still feel like people are still coming together and experiencing things that they will end up passing along and can share those.
I don't think they
experiences
will.
with other people.
Everything content now is so like stuff that was cool 5 years ago. Nobody even talks about.
Yeah,
anymore.
but
It feels like a lot of things now. I mean, trends have always been a thing.
yeah,
Trendiness and following what's popular. It feels like you have to be right on top of things when it's, brand spanking new, because they're only going to be anybody's only going to care about them for a very brief time right at the beginning, and then they move on to the next thing super fast. So if you want to have some kind of shared experience on a lot of topics, you have to be on the ball, on the current trends all the time, or it's just going to pass you by.
What was that trend a few years ago? It was some song. I can't remember how it went, but basically it'd be like a video of people doing like normal things, and then it would cut, and this like
I know what you're talking about.
they'd be doing a bunch of crazy stuff. What was the
I forget what it was called, but I know what you're talking
I
about.
can't remember what the song. It was some weird song, and everybody was doing it, right?
Or like
and,
a
there was
month.
this trend that they were doing, and this was crazy. Yeah, and everybody did. And there was videos from like colleges and companies and church
Or
groups.
the
and all
ice
these-
bucket challenge, the same
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's like
Well,
that.
yeah,
they were
and-
doing these things, but it's like that's going to
They're
be a
still doing,
footnote
like,
in an
TikTok.
encyclopedia. It's not going to be relevant. And like if in 30 years, people can be like, look at Mr. Beast, and like they're doing Mr. Beast studies, you know, like it's like I don't know, maybe they are like the cultural relevance of Mr. Beast, you know, to this generation. Like what did his impact? And it's like,
See, like I don't feel like any of this stuff is lasting. I feel like we're talking about lots of content. There's so much stuff all the time that, like, I don't think in 5 years people will be talking about Mr. Beast. I don't think. Maybe
I agree.
maybe
It's a lot of
somebody-
disposable content. Is
Yeah.
what we'll talk about.
I
What
think
we call it.
I think somebody will go, "Hey, Billy, you remember that Mr. Beast guy used to make videos?" And they'll kind of laugh about it, and that'll be about it. But I think we're just going to get increasingly toward that. And also, this stuff's on the internet. There's no DVDs of Mr. Beast videos. There's no
Yeah.
anything.
I got on the internet in like 1995. Nothing that I looked at those first 5 years on the internet exists anymore.
Exactly. My DC Talk fan page from back in 1996, it disappeared. I didn't delete it.
it's like you can play
So-
old school RuneScape, but it's not even the original RuneScape.
Yeah.
And,
You know,
and
you can
you were
play-
talking about how things were getting just more disposable. I mean, even just like video games. When I was a kid, it was, hey, this video game is on a cartridge. If you play this today or if you play this 20 years from now, it's going to be the same game. It's always going to be there. But then when MMOs and online games came out, all of those are designed to be,
Very
if not disposable, then very
Well,
based and when it's at. So you can't go back and replay an MMO from 15 years ago because that
No.
experience doesn't exist. It depended on other people playing. It depended on.
I go back and try to play WoW.
Yeah.
I missed WoW for like a year and went back, and it was a completely different game. And I was like, "What's this crap?"
you
Yeah.
you have to learn how to get back into it. And it's like
But you can never like replay how it was then. Like you can go back and watch Patton now, and it's the same movie today that it was 50 years
so,
ago.
like, use Elvis as an example. We're getting on 70 years since Elvis, right? And like he still has cultural relevance, and it's possible that somebody from nowadays will have that kind of cultural relevance, but they don't. Like, do my parents know who I don't even know if this guy is still popular, but do my parents know who Post Malone is? No. But did my parents did my grandparents know who the Rolling Stones were, or like AC/DC? Sure, they'd heard of them at least, but my parents probably like, who? Post Malone? Like, no, I've never heard of that person. It's like, or whoever, that's the question is like, will these people last beyond their generation? Because there's plenty of people that did not last beyond the previous generations, but there was someone who did. Elvis, the Beatles, Billy Joel, Elton John. Like, there's big, huge people that transcended. And
I
then
think
there's-
Trump will.
I mean, he's the president of the United States. He solidified his moment in history for sure.
I think 10 years from now, somebody will bring up something political, and they'll go, "Well, you know what Trump did back then?"
Yeah.
But at the same time, there are people who are in positions where they don't even get that cultural stuff like we did. Like my father, for instance, he was in the way ministry for a while, and they were like, rock and roll is the devil. So my dad went about a decade and a half without being able to listen to anything like rock and roll or anything like that, which is one reason why him and I bonded over music. It's because he got out of it around the time I was born. So he was like discovering like John Mellencamp and all of this other stuff that had been going on for the past 15 years that he hadn't heard until now, but he loved it. So, I mean, I don't know. I think things are just going to get weird. Welcome to the future.
Yeah, I think everything's just going to be more disposable. There'll be some classic things, but the thing is now, people, I don't know how to say this without sounding like an old man. They automatically praise everything new just because it's new.
Yes.
It's not good. You can judge it based on things that are good and it's not good. And they're just like, well, you just don't like it because you're old. It's like, no, I don't like it because it's not good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or
Just
you're
'cause it's
racist,
new.
or you're sexist, or
Yeah.
you just don't like things. And I'm like,
Well,
oh no.
when he's talking about the internet making everything disposable, let's say 5 years from now, they decide most of the content on YouTube was offensive to cats or something, so they take half of the videos off. Nobody's going to have any of this stuff.
All they have to do is start losing money, and Google will stop having a way for you to post huge amounts of information that costs them money to host for free. They're doing it for free. But if they get to a point where they need to not do that, they're just going to get rid of stuff. And it will be, and if people didn't back it up or put it in somewhere else, and it's going to be gone, like literally just gone.
I'll tell you one thing that bothers me. It hurts my feelings. I get on Spotify and, from DC Talk and stuff like that, I went on and started listening to bands like MXPX, stuff that was like on Tooth and Nail Records and stuff. That stuff is not online. I can get on Spotify and search. You can find some of those bands, but like I had these compilation albums that they put out and all this stuff. Some of it had unreleased songs by these bands on it. You cannot find them on any streaming service or anywhere. So now I had the physical CD, but I wore it out. I never made any backups of it or anything. That stuff is lost. I doubt Tooth and Nail even has it or even wants to put it out. I don't even know if Tooth and Nail is even around because I haven't looked. That kind of stuff, like, it upsets me because there's stuff that I want to listen to. Or, like, another thing that makes me mad, stuff that I've watched. I don't know why, but I love Fist of the North Star. I don't know if you guys ever watched the anime or saw the manga or whatever. It is so hard to find any of that to stream. Like, I found the original, but I can't find the dub that I used to watch. I know that I watched it dubbed. I know I did. Can't find it anywhere. It's so weird because. Go ahead.
So like with everything moving to where it's only available streaming, I think that a lot of the companies kind of like that because it gives them more control over it. Whereas if you had something released on tape or a physical book, even if they lost the license to it or lost the rights or for whatever reason decided they didn't want to or they couldn't keep releasing that, you still had a copy of it.
Yeah.
Whereas if it's only, existing in the cloud, whenever you buy something from Amazon, you're not really owning a copy. You're renting a license to access it.
Yep.
And for a lot of the big company stuff, it's probably not going to be an issue, but I've been watching anime for like 25 years. 90% of the companies that were translating anime in 2001 went out of business.
Yep.
A lot of that stuff got bought out by the other companies and has been re-released. It's taken 20 years for some of it, but there's a lot of stuff that ADV or Central Park Media released in 1998 that's never going to come back because it was never that popular, not popular enough to justify anybody giving a crap about now.
Well, it's like,
That's why I love piracy.
I don't have any interest in Berserk. I don't have any interest in it. But the Berserk anime, the original one, the 2D one, it's not on any of the streaming services.
It's really hard to find.
Yeah, or like with Hunter x Hunter, the show that's on now is the new one that came out.
Mm-hmm.
And when I watched it in there was one that came out like 1999. They did 4
there's-
series. They released it once here, like in 2005 or 2010, and then it went out of print. And now it's as if it didn't exist.
Built
Brand-
right off the face of the planet.
Yeah,
The
Well,
original
at the
voice
US
of Goku is not, the one that we would have watched in the 90s. That's not the voice of, whatever you can buy on DVD now.
The Canadians can still buy that though because they kept using them in Canada for the whole series.
Anyways, guys, I'm gonna bounce. It's been 2.5 hours, and
Yeah, I probably need to go too because I got stuff to do. But man, this has been an awesome stream, and I like talking about stuff.
yeah, it was
And it's
fun.
good for me to use my brain sometimes,
Oh, one
other
last
than
thing.
that, answer questions about Roman Reigns that I don't know.
Wait, what? Roman Reigns.
Yeah, my client asked me about Roman Reigns 50 times. He asked me questions that I don't know. He watched wrestling Monday night and is asking me questions about it. I didn't work Monday night. I don't watch wrestling when I'm not here. You can't convince him of that. He goes, Doug, what Roman Reigns? What is he good guy? Is he bad? I said, I don't know. I didn't watch wrestling. And then 5 minutes later, Doug, Roman Reigns. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and end the stream.
Okay.
Bye, stream.
Later.
Bye.